This podcast is a member of the Place to Be Nation family. Visit us at placetobenation.com, the only place to be in your pop culture world.
Welcome to the luxurious Ho-Ho-Loon Plaza, Vancouver, British Columbia, Canada. We are outdoors because there's nothing like the summertime. We're not even in the L-shaped studio right now. We are enjoying the great Canadian outdoors in this beautiful summer, in the moderate temperatures of the Pacific Northwest. Oh. And I am Greg Phillips. That voice you hear next to me is the wonderful and mischievous Nick Duke. And Nick, I noticed you've got a special twinkle in your eye after this weekend. You seem like you've got a hitch in your step.
Hitch in my step. What I have is a black hole where my liver should be, probably. So that's the issue at the moment. As anybody who has listened to our show in the past knows, I'm a little bit of a football fan, and the football season finally arrived, and I celebrated it in full fashion, and am paying the price for it today. So the motto of today's story, ladies and gentlemen, is that alcohol is bad, and you should not drink it until you completely change your mind a few days from now.
AKA the Ric Flair story. But nonetheless, we are
except instead of a baby's arm holding an apple, it's more like a baby's pinky holding nothing at all, really.
Very well. The reason we are gathered here today is to talk to you, the listening audience, in the latest of our series called Hard Travelers for Hire. This, of course, is our trek through the Marvel Cinematic Universe, movie by movie, moment by moment. And here to join us for our discussion of the latest film in this series, which is, by the way, Thor Ragnarok, which we may or may not refer to by a different name a few times during this podcast. Here to join us is our manager extraordinaire, the manager of champions, the man who sold Hercules' contract at its highest value, the man who has made some of the best wheeling and dealing moves in this or any other business. Ladies and gentlemen, the captain of the West Coast, the dominator of PTBN, the man that makes it all happen. Ladies and gentlemen, his name is Todd Weber.
Well, with an introduction like that, I don't know where we go from there, but thank you very much. And it's always good to be back with my clients, the Hard-Traveling Fanboys. How are you doing up there in Vancouver? I am, of course, not up there with you.
No, Todd is down a little bit south of us right now, but we're doing really good, Todd. We're enjoying the moderate temperatures, the clean mountain and forest air, I suppose I should say. We're enjoying whatever it is that the weather in Vancouver is like this time of year. Wouldn't you say, Nick?
Yes.
Indeed.
Hungover Nick is the best Nick.
Thank you. I draft Todd Weber's kids.
I draft Nick Duke's liver.
That's a useless draft pick if there ever was one.
There were lots of useless draft picks on the previous episode 124. Of course, we're referring to the biennial Peter David Memorial draft that all these people got to listen to last time, right?
Absolutely.
We're fresh off that.
I was going to say, who are you, John Gruden, with your drafting of Nick's liver? But no, yes, everybody should listen to the draft. It was, I don't know about you, Todd, but I've heard a lot of great feedback on it already. I think it's one of our most fun episodes.
It's one for the ages and lots of smack talk run, and it was great to have a big panel and all my friends, and we even brought in a new guy, and it's going to be really cool to see where we go with these pitches that are coming up in a couple months.
Absolutely, and the one thing that you can know that is for sure about the pitches in the PlayStation Comics draft is that nothing's for sure. Mm-hmm. But one thing that is for sure is that we're going to sit down and we're going to watch the third movie in the Thor franchise from Marvel Comics here today. Marvel Studios, pardon me. Of course, the first two being Thor and Thor: The Dark World, which got mixed reactions in different ways from the viewing audience. Well, here for Thor 3, it is not only the third movie in the series, but the third movie with a different director in the series, as Taika Waititi, or as I will probably call him at some point, Taika Waititi, has joined the fray here. He is a New Zealand-based director, known primarily for his work on comedies in the past. And so he comes over and inherits the Thor role, Thor director's chair from Nick, that guy that directed Thor: The Dark World, whose name is
some guy.
Sven Svenson. I think it's Sigurd Jarlson, right?
I think it was Alan Taylor.
Alan Thicke, Alan Parsons, someone like that.
Alan Cumming.
He's coming. Alan
Taylor, yes, directed Thor: The Dark World.
The man that directed Thor: The Dark World. He's replaced here by Taika Waititi, who is inheriting the character of Thor from the aftermath of what was his last appearance? That would have been Age of Ultron.
Age of Ultron, yep.
Age of Ultron. And then we saw him, of course, pop up at the end of Doctor Strange in the post-credit scene, which gets played off here in the film. So, leading into this, it felt like Marvel wanted to go in a different direction with the Thor movies, which had, I think it's fair to say, had somewhat of a by Marvel standards, chilly reception, particularly The Dark World, which was the lowest reviewed Marvel Studios film to this point by critics. What did you guys think of the state of Thor going into this movie before we started? And basically, what was the landscape like? How important was this movie for Marvel moving forward? I'll start with you, Todd, being our guest on this one.
Well, I mean, to put it bluntly, Dark World was kind of a shit show. Every time I see it, I go, well, this isn't so bad. But then I look at the bigger fabric of the Marvel Cinematic Universe, and, well, it's really on the tail end of everything. It's weak villain, weak story, not funny, really, at all. I mean, Loki's still the highlight of the whole film, and there's little bits here and there that are not quite redemptive, but you just see so much missed opportunity in that film. I mean, to get Thor right in the Avengers films, in my opinion, but even in the first film, I mean, it introduces him and it's okay, but it's just it's on the better half of things. But Dark World really set him back quite a bit as far as being a good franchise that I would look forward to seeing. Oh, I can't wait for the next Thor film.
Yeah, well, just picking up on Todd's point. I feel like the Dark World did leave us in that position. I think a lot of people thought that way.
We still haven't had a shit movie. Dark World may be as close as we get to Marvel Cinematic Universe film. I don't know. We'll see.
Yeah, definitely. You cut out on us for just a minute there, Todd. But nonetheless, I think we got the gist of it, and definitely agree with you. I think a lot of people viewed it that way, that Dark World left bad taste in mouth to some degree for a lot of people, and I think that the kind of dourness and kind of at times self-seriousness of it rang a little hollow. Now, Nick, you approach it a little bit from a different viewpoint. You were a big fan of the Dark World when it first came out. I know we revisited it here. Let me rephrase that. We have gone over it again here on the show, and you're not as big on it as you were when it first came out. But what was your thought on the state of the Thor franchise and the Thor character at that time?
I thought it was fine. Like, they had done a decent job. I would not give them a ringing endorsement by any stretch of the imagination, but they had introduced some elements that are kind of what I want to see in a Thor movie, even though they hadn't really gotten there all the way. And when the big slate was announced and the title of this movie was first announced as being Thor Ragnarok, I remember doing a podcast with you guys, it instantly shot to the top of my most anticipated Marvel movies list, even above something like Infinity War, because to me, the word Ragnarok carries with it certain connotations and certain expectations for a story and plot elements and a tone that was a little different than what we wound up getting.
Yes. And yeah, I know we're going to end up talking about that a lot. And so, right. Regardless of the quality of the film, the expectations for the film were one thing.
Yeah.
Right. And I think that the interesting thing here is, from my perspective, I kind of viewed it the way that kind of Todd laid out there. The second one was not very funny, and it felt like...
Well, it wasn't a comedy.
Well, all the Marvel movies are to a degree, though. There's not a Marvel has a certain universal tone about itself that you expect it to be somewhat. You expect there to be some kind of levity to it. In other words, they're not a Dark Knight trilogy. So
every MCU film has had a laugh out loud moment or five, starting from Iron Man because RDJ was awesome.
And I agree with that, but I would argue that the best movies in the MCU are the ones that do not seek to be comedies. The ones that use humor as an element of relief, but otherwise take themselves fairly seriously. For example, the Captain America sequels would be mine.
Would you say? Well, yeah. Those are two examples, but
they are a tier apart,
right?
And I think there's a reason for that.
Even Civil War has a great deal of comedy in it.
It does, but the comedy is not the point.
Right. Well, then there's Guardians of the Galaxy, both of which you're a big fan of.
I am.
Which are comedies predominantly.
Yes.
But regardless, I thought the
Doctor Strange, not a comedy. Great film? Top half of Marvel film? All right, we're going to talk more about this.
Yeah. But anyway, so it was that kind of a dour movie. It took itself seriously with corny material, in my opinion. Very, as it almost gets made fun of in this movie, as we'll talk about, kind of very melodramatic. And in a way that to me, the first one did it a little bit better than that. But nonetheless, I think Marvel wanted to change course and go in a little bit different direction, or as we'll see, a lot different direction with this one. So it was an interesting place that they were in, and from the general public perception versus hardcore Thor fan perception, it's hard to tell because I don't have the history with Thor that you guys do. But I know I was looking for something different from a Thor movie than what I got in the second one, and even the first one, which I like but don't love, I guess. But nonetheless, here we are with 2017's Thor Ragnarok, which is how many entries are we in now to the MCU?
17.
17th entry in the Marvel Cinematic Universe. So, as we like to do here on the show, we are going to play the movie and invite you, if you'd like to, or you have the opportunity, to watch the movie along with us. We're not going to get through the whole thing, but we're going to use it to remind ourselves of moments, characters, discussion points along the way, and we invite you to get your streaming service. This is available on Netflix, or to get your DVD or Blu-ray. And, for now, that's a good point, Todd. Before the, what are they called? Disney Play?
Yeah, Disney Play, which is going to be changed again, I think, or Disney Go. I mean, they've got all these domains registered, but we'll see what it ends up being. For now, it's Disney Play, which is dumb as hell.
Right. Yeah, so whatever the streaming service is, this is probably where it's going to end up. But for now, it's on Netflix, or you can pull up your Blu-ray or your DVD player. I've got mine stopped at 1 second, so I'm sure everybody else has got theirs ready too. So get yours ready, and then we are going to hit play in 3, 2, 1, play. And here we get the awesome thing that we talk about pretty much every time on this show, guys. This opening credits here, which is really, really cool. I love this new one that they've got all the movie characters involved in and everything. Mm-hmm. What are your thoughts on this one versus the original Marvel opening credits?
This is great, but they couldn't have done it, from the jump. They finally gotten to a point by this time where the movies themselves are the brand, and the comics are just... I mean, at this point, Marvel Studios, to me, is a more valuable entity than Marvel Comics, and so now you have this intro that acknowledges that status, I would say.
Yeah, it's good to see all the cinematic representations of these characters up there, and it's nice because we're almost at 10 years at this point. We're at the 9-year point, I think.
My God, yeah, you're right.
So,
you're right.
Pays homage to all of the history. Hey, there's Thor in chains.
Thor in chains, and he's talking to somebody, and we don't don't know who he's talking to right now, laying out the story. It's almost like, but it's framing it like the Ferris Bueller talking to the camera kind of thing. Seems like he's laying out here's how I ended up in this position, but he's actually, as we find out, talking to something, which is the skeleton man here in just a second. So this is actually a shot of Thor in what is it called is it just called Hell, or is it called what do they call it in the Norse mythology?
Muspelheim.
Well, it's one of the 9 realms, right? Sorry, Nick.
You're okay. Muspelheim.
Yep.
And this is one of the 9 realms, you say, Todd?
Yes, this is the realm of Surtur, who is in the prophecies fated to destroy Asgard and all of the gods. And that's what Ragnarok has meant, and that's what Walt Simonson wrote about in the 80s, where we finally reach Ragnarok, and there's Surtur, and I really like the way they portray Surtur the Fire Lord, Fire Demon here.
Yeah, it looks awesome. I'm assuming this is all CGI here, but it looks really, really good. Thor is trying to talk up Surtur here. Now, what do people need to know about Surtur the Fire Demon? Nick, I know you're a big aficionado of the character and the mythos. How does Surtur compare to some of the other characters we've seen in Thor movies to this point, Malekith or Loki or the Destroyer armor, for instance?
Surtur, at least in the comics anyway, has always meant dire circumstances. There is no way to laugh off Surtur. When he shows up, things are going to get very bad very quickly. As Todd alluded to, he is tied to the prophecy of being the one to bring about the destruction of Asgard, and has played a role in that vein several times throughout comics history. But he is, in my view, some people would argue the Mangog. I would disagree with that, but I would argue he is the most physically imposing and physically threatening villain in the Thor mythos.
Yeah, he's kind of like the end game.
Yes.
Yeah. And looking at the dialogue here, it's setting up all the stuff that's going to happen in the last 15 minutes of the film. But
yes, it's very much
which we'll get to
a prophetic scene, and that it feels like a throwaway scene. The first time you see the movie, it feels like it's not going to have any impact. But then, as we see at the end of the movie, it ends up coming full circle, and the prophecy ends up being. Well, I don't know why I'm worried about spoiler alerts. If people are watching this with us, they've already seen the movie. But it is a prophecy that ends up coming true. And there is not, as it turns out, there is nothing that Thor can do to avoid this prophecy. So, in that way, I really like this framing sequence. I know Nick you've got different thoughts on how this is handled.
Well, again, I mean, it goes back to an issue of tone, like,
and the title of the film. Had they called it something else?
Here's my issue. Is like, we can sit here and we can debate whether it was necessary to give the character of Thor a revamp. You guys are going to say it is, and I'm going to tend to say it wasn't. But my larger issue than really the revamp itself was they didn't really do any of the legwork to get there. They just did it. It is the same thing that we used to complain about, Greg, where characters would show up on The Walking Dead after a season or mid-season break and just be acting completely differently than they did before. It makes no sense, and it's lazy writing, in my opinion.
Yeah, he's basically Volstagg.
Yes.
Yeah, that's
it really is. The way they're writing Thor, the way as a character, which...
And again, if you want to do that, give me a reason. Like, give me a reason to get there. And they just don't do it. Well, which is fine. That works.
And he and Jane Foster broke up.
And so that leads to him becoming a quip fest?
Well, she was a humorless bitch.
And then when you get him back in the hands of the Russos, they introduce pathos back into the character, and some actual emotion, but that's neither here nor there.
He shows emotion in this film. We'll see it.
It's in the shadow of this film. It's all the aftermath to this that he goes through.
Right. Yeah, he's gone through a lot of loss already. Mm-hmm. Whether it be his mother, whether it be Jane Foster, whether it be the fact that he can't stay in that apartment anymore with the scientist guy. There's a lot of what is that guy's name? What's the scientist guy's name?
It's not Bruce. That's something else. But it's something like that.
Guy.
Yeah. Anyway, good call out to that. Shout out to that, to his Australian apartment. I think it's in Australia. Is that right?
Possibly Australia, London.
I think so.
One of those foreign countries.
I don't feel like everybody's seen what we're speaking of, but
right.
It's a DVD extra.
Now here's a character with a comedic bend that I think is awesome. Scourge is great in this movie.
They actually gave him a comic book character, though, right?
They gave him a personality.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I was going to say, in the comics, he's not a comedic individual, right? He's more of a...
Generally speaking, but they have done comedic elements with him in the past. It
feels like kind of a Drax situation
differs
to me.
It's definitely played up here more, but I would argue there is at least some writers have tended to go that way, albeit a bit drier than he is here. So,
in the comics, he tends to be super horny for the Enchantress.
And they play some humor off of that sometimes.
I think the only time I've encountered that character actually is through the cartoon Earth's Mightiest Heroes.
Oh God,
where he is.
Good Lord, you need to read the gosh darn Simonson run, my friend.
I know.
We did one trade, right, Nick?
We did the Surtur saga, yes.
Yes, and I don't believe he was in that. If
he was, it was a bit role.
A very bit role. Yeah, we need to read the whole thing at some point because it was really good. I enjoyed the hell out of it. This is a good bit here.
That's good.
Putting the hammer on the whatever this thing's called.
So this is not the Midgard serpent, but it's a dragon of some sort.
Yep.
The Midgard serpent. Do we see that at any point in any of these movies?
Not yet.
Ric Flair is not in any of these films.
Not yet. No.
Not yet. Oh boy. Anyway, yeah. So Carl Urban is the actor here. Playing a much different role than we're used to seeing him in. He's, of course, known, maybe some people might know him as Bones in the new Star Trek movies. Some people may know him as Judge Dredd. Others may know him from various TV roles. But he's typically, he's played comedies before, certainly, but a lot of times he's more of like a hard-edged, grizzled kind of guy. And here he is hard-edged to the degree that he's the Scourge the Executioner, but he's certainly much more comedic in nature and does a pretty good job with it, I think.
Jeez, I remember him back from the old Lord of the Rings trilogy.
God, he was in that? I don't even remember that.
Yeah, he was Eomer. Is that it?
I forget which one.
Riders of Rohan?
Yeah, he has the love triangle, right, with the one chick who's clearly got the hots for Aragorn, but then he's not interested. Isn't that it, him?
That's right.
Yeah?
I think so. Although I thought that was his sister. His dad.
Well, it's Tolkien. Doesn't mean he can't have the hots for her.
That's true.
Now,
anyway, he's slimed now.
It feels like the Asgardians are obsessed with trophies. Is that fair to say?
Odin was.
Yeah,
Odin
was a collector of things.
So here we see the helmet or head of Surtur being carried by Thor as he finds out something's amiss in the land of Asgard, and then we see the Executioner trotting along after him. So Asgard, of course, looks awesome in all of these movies. That's one thing that really hasn't changed across all three. The visual elements of this, really among my favorite in the MCU. Taking apart my issues with either of the Thor movies, the visuals of Asgard are phenomenal.
And wouldn't it be great if they ever explored more of that?
Well, do you want to have an Aquaman film that just takes place in Atlantis, or
yes, yes, I do.
Well, you do, because the public want that.
Fuck the public. I don't care. I'm not a movie producer. I'm not sitting here I'm not going to change my opinion on something because other people want it. If I did that, I'd like the fucking Big Bang Theory. The hell with that.
Here comes the best part of the movie. It's the play with these stand-in characters
where they're blatantly making fun of the Dark World.
They are. Sorry about the time I turned you into a frog.
Yeah, this is great. Matt Damon as Loki. And Loki, underrated here is Anthony Hopkins playing Loki, playing Odin.
Himself, yeah. And one of the other Hemsworth brothers playing Thor.
Yes.
And then Sam Neill, great Australian actor from Jurassic Park and others, as Odin. So you have stage Odin and then fake Loki Odin in the same film.
Right.
It's great.
And then the Dave Chappelle death scene for poor Loki. No! That's my favorite part. So Loki died of his wounds. Very good shit. So, all of this being said, the premise of this film, we pick it up with him battling Surtur. He's taken the trophy back. Another mission for Thor, but things are all different. Odin is gone. Loki has taken Odin's place, which is something that we actually established in the at the end of the Dark World, I believe.
Yes.
And so
the last scene was
right. And so we're in this status. Loki's enjoying everything, and now here's Thor to screw everything up as usual. Couldn't he have just let Loki enjoy himself a little bit longer?
He's had a couple years to do this.
Yeah, it's been, he's been off doing Ultron stuff and then going across the cosmos in search of Infinity Stones. I feel like Loki's had some time for his fun.
And Loki as Odin is kind of he's kind of glamorized a little bit. Look how, I don't know. I'm trying to find a good metaphor for him, but he's taking care of himself a lot better than real Odin did.
Yes. He's sowing his royal oats, but it's like if Semi had been the prince instead of Akeem and coming to America.
Oh,
speaking of Semis, every time I see Hemsworth,
it's already been a couple weeks since the halfies.
That's a good point. Maybe we should add the Semis to our roster of shows
Every quarter.
The semi-halfies. So, yeah, Odin's got the little, I just noticed the little, braid over to the side in Odin's hair. That's different, yeah. Or low-key Odin, obviously. This is a really good scene. So Thor and Loki... Oh, go ahead.
It's still obviously Anthony Hopkins, but he's playing it a totally different way. It's really good. Gives you more appreciation for the Oscar-winning Anthony Hopkins.
Yes, who played, of course, the legendary character.
Fair, decent.
Yeah, decent. Yeah, he of course played the legendary character in whatever that movie was called with Alec Baldwin back in the day.
Yeah, the one with the bear. Was that the one with the bear?
Yeah. Yeah. Over the edge? No, not over the edge. That's a stupid thing to say.
The Edge, I think.
The Edge, yes. So I wasn't that far off.
It's a movie about edging, I think.
Yes, I believe that's correct. There's a rosebud involved. It's, as I understand it. I don't remember much about the film, so I may have been dreaming that part. Anyway, so Loki has taken over, and Thor is saying, all right, we're going to go back to Midgard. Midgard's what they call Earth, and then they're gonna find Odin, and they're gonna bring him back and restore him to power. Unfortunately, the nursing home that Loki left him in has been demolished. So that things didn't work out the way that that he initially thought. And this is gonna involve a visit by Doctor Strange, who, in my opinion. Let me just get this out of the way. I said this in our initial thoughts on Infinity War. Doctor Strange is so much better in other movies besides his own movie, Doctor Strange, in my opinion.
He's had one movie, though.
Yeah.
Thor was better in other movies at that point than he was in Thor. So, No,
I agree completely. But my limited exposure to Doctor Strange in this movie and then in Infinity War was more entertaining than anything that happens with him in his own movie.
Without a question. No, I agree. And he gets the cool gloves here too.
Yes. And they get to lean into how weird his whole side of the MCU is with the magic and his odd mansion place that he lives in.
The Sanctum Sanctorum.
The Sanctum Sanctorum. The Rick Santorum, I believe.
The Sanctorum.
Yes.
Sorum. Anyway.
So here he's floating in, making an elaborate entrance. Every interaction that he has now in the MCU is great, which is shocking to me as somebody that really didn't enjoy his solo movie much, but I find myself enjoying now, whether it's Iron Man, whether it's Spider-Man, whether it's Bruce Banner. whether it's Thor. Every time I see Doctor Strange interact with someone now, I end up enjoying it.
I think the gloves are a nice touch, by the way. Todd called them out, so I'm staring at them. And it's a good, it completes the ensemble.
Yeah, you don't notice them before.
I didn't. I don't think I ever noticed them. I've seen this movie probably like
I don't think
3 or 4 times until you called it out, because you're right. They definitely were not there in the Doctor Strange film, but they are there in the classic, comics and stuff. So yeah, good call, Todd.
He's a weird cat. I mean, we get that, but these are all freaks in their own way, but we've seen them for so long. It just seeing Strange through the filter of these guys makes you really appreciate both the casting and just how unique a character he was and how they got him right. This ties into our Marvel Age podcast, but they've got him right as a character from the get-go. They've created something that just, you can tell Doctor Strange stories forever and find ways to make it interesting. It's just a unique character within the MCU. Cumberbatch, with the exception of the sometimes questionable American accent, has a presence and really stands apart as a unique individual in this universe of other unique individuals. I love the chemistry between he and Thor here. It's great.
Oh yeah, this conversation's amazing, and I think you're right. I think leaning into that weirdness, and you guys kind of have a fresh and different perspective on this going through Marvel Age and reading the earliest appearances of all these characters. Maybe I'm being presumptuous here, but I feel like that might give you guys an appreciation or even a resentment, I don't know, depending on how it is, but of how the casting has gone in these Marvel movies for how they have captured these early Marvel characters, whether it be Iron Man, Thor, Doctor Strange, Spider-Man, and so on. But have you guys found, I know this is not a Marvel Age podcast, but have you guys found that to be the case at all?
I'm sorry, what was the question?
Have you guys seen, has your Marvel Age reading to this point given you any further insight into how the MCU has handled these characters compared to their original iterations?
Spider-Man's pretty spot on, I would say, because that character, his essence, especially as a young version, has kind of always been timeless. Doctor Strange early Doctor Strange, in my opinion, was something of a work in progress. They had to figure out what they wanted it to be. At first, it was kind of going to be like more of a magical detective type feel to it, where he was taking on these different cases of mysterious circumstances, and then eventually they got into the more epic, long form, battling Dormammu in the Dark Dimension type stories. So they definitely are pulling more from that aspect of the character, or at least I feel like they're going to be now that they've got through set up in his solo movie. I mean, Thor is Thor. Thor, as we discussed on Marvel Age, kind of is the character that was most fully formed from the jump. Yeah, they've evolved him somewhat over the years, but he's kind of always been that same egotistical character to a certain degree, and that definitely comes through in some of these movies.
Okay, 2 quick things here. Number 1, we needed more Loki and Doctor Strange interactions. That was awesome. Number 2, the umbrella thing. I don't know much about Thor mythology, but I know that isn't the umbrella him tapping the umbrella for the hammer?
It was a cane,
that sort of tied
back in the day.
It was a cane, okay.
Yeah. Originally, the lame Donald Blake, who could only walk with the assistance of the cane, and so he had the cane could transform into Mjolnir, depending on the taps on the ground.
And this is actually homaged in this scene through the umbrella. Mm-hmm. Now, lame was referring strictly to his physical.
Not just that, he was lame as a character.
That's a direct quote. I mean, pretty much every time that any other person was talking about Donald Blake on panel back then, they would refer to him not as Donald Blake, but the lame Donald Blake. Stan had a thing about handicaps, the lame Donald Blake, the blind Matt Murdock, and people who were not, Donald Blake or Matt Murdock. Anytime they talk about those people in those early days, they would refer to them as the blind Matt Murdock or the lame Donald Blake.
Goodness gracious! Now I think they acknowledged Donald Blake in the first Thor movie, right?
Yeah, there's a nod where he steals a
Easter egg.
Yeah, he steals an ID. No, actually, Jane gives him some clothes to wear that she said belonged to an ex, and it's a nurse that she used to know, and there's a name tag on it that he rips off that says Donald Blake on it.
Ah, very good, very good. here is what is going to be the Odin death scene. Now, this one, again, because I don't know anything about Thor mythology, this caught me off guard in theater. I was not expecting them to kill off Odin this early in the movie.
Nor was I. I mean, in the story of Ragnarok, it needs to happen, but it felt... I felt like they could have milked a little bit more out of Odin in this movie, because this is really only, his only scene in the movie.
This, and then he gets that little kind of Thor taken out of time when Hela's about to kill him. Mm-hmm. He talks to him and says, "Asgard is the people, Clarice."
What did the Grandmaster say to you, Thor? He told me he could smell my cunt.
Very good, yes. So Odin dies much different than you would expect in a movie called Thor Ragnarok. Yeah. He just kind of turns into glowing dust here and hooks up with Rene Russo in the afterlife in Valhalla.
Thanos got him already, I guess.
Yeah. So it is dust, but it's not
this
ash.
Is gold dust.
So yeah.
I'm never doing that impression again, by the way. That was awful. I'd rather
not among your top impressions, no.
I'd rather be shat on than do that again.
I can arrange that.
I know a guy.
Yeah. How much money? So anyway, first of all, what an immaculate suit Loki is wearing here.
Yeah, it's a nice look.
That is a freaking awesome suit.
That's Todd Weber at a funeral suit.
Really? That's awesome.
Yeah, he's just black on black on black. That was Todd Weber at a club in the 90s, but
black on black.
But I was husky. I was like husky Loki with lighter hair.
Were you like Husky Harris at all?
Velvet and that little boy smile. Was I like
Trevor Lee's eyes?
Were you like Husky Harris at all?
Husky Harris.
Anyway.
Yes. I bought my mistress a pony.
Good Lord. Good Lord. Allegedly. Oh, God.
Jose Offerman's daughter.
Jose Offerman. Good Lord. What a blast. Yeah. Here's the first appearance from the exotic Hela of Asgard, I suppose. And before the other thing I want to get to is my favorite dynamic in these movies, and maybe my favorite dynamic in the MCU entirely, is the Thor Loki dynamic. Mm-hmm. I love their relationship so much, and in a way that I don't really love any of the romantic relationships in the MCU. They're like brotherly war/bond. I think is awesome because Loki is that character you love to hate, right? In all these movies, he's the constant thorn in the side, and yet as the movies go on, at least in my case, I find myself rooting for him, and I'm almost in the role of Thor, or if you will, early '90s Sting, where I want to believe that he's a babyface. I want to think that Loki has finally learned the error of his ways, to the point that when Loki inevitably betrays Thor, it actually hurts me. I'm like, oh man, why'd you do it again? And instead of getting mad at Thor for being dumb enough to fall for it, I'm like him. I'm the eternal optimist because I want to like Loki. I want to love Loki, but he always does something inevitably in his own interest that ruins everything. So anyway, I just wanted to say that. So
a lot of things have happened here in a short amount of time.
Yep.
Hela just destroyed Meow Meow, and we get she's revealed as the eldest child of Odin, which is not from the comics.
Right.
I don't believe.
No.
I mean,
no, they're kind of doing with her what they eventually did with Angela in the comics. Yeah.
Right. Only Angela is not the goddess of death. And
no, but they do give her the Queen of Hell gimmick at one point. I mean, they've done some things with it. So, like, it seems like they're trying to develop that dynamic, kind of combine what they've done with Angela in recent years with the more classic Hela design, giving her longer standing as a major Thor villain.
And I think they visually got her right.
Oh yeah, the visualization is great, and even like Cate Blanchett's performance, I think is pretty good. Oh, yeah. I mean, it's over the top, and it's scenery chewing, but I would argue it's scenery chewing done pretty well in the context of this film. This bothers me. It's never not going to bother me. Laugh if you want. It's it's stupid. I don't like it. Fuck it.
Wait, what?
Killing off the Warriors 3 like in 3 seconds.
Yeah, it was not. I was actually surprised by that in the movie because they weren't a big deal in either of the first two movies.
Nope.
Honestly, but they were established characters. So, well, to a degree. So you would think they would get more of a warrior's send-off, if you will, rather than quick daggers to the gut.
Well, two-thirds are gone, and the only one left is who? Ultimate Warrior? Who's left?
Hogan!
And
right now, the director of the film is sending the plane into a nosedive through the galaxy. And so Cate Blanchett, yeah, very interesting, very different look for her in this movie. She doesn't really look like she's looked to me in any movie. Very, as JR might say, exotic, high cheekbones. What was the damn actress? Damn it, I ruined it, Nick.
Maureen O'Hara.
Which one?
Maureen O'Hara.
Maureen O'Hara, yes, thank you. Anyway, she does an awesome job in this. I don't know the damn thing about Hela from the comics. I've never encountered her. But I know that Blanchett is imposing and intimidating and also, as Nick pointed out, scene-chewing in a pleasant, Thor-appropriate way. And now Thor has been sucked into this trash planet here that we're going to find out a little bit more about here in a few minutes.
I mean, they go so fast through this part of the film. Mm-hmm. Hela, they give her a character she's never necessarily had before, but again, it works in the context of this film, I suppose. And, in the comics, she's always been kind of just a larger-than-life being. She doesn't necessarily engage all that much, She's more of a... Like Thanos' death in the comics, the muse of Thanos. She's more of an abstract at times.
I'm assuming that she is not the same character as that death. Is that correct?
No.
They're different.
They're different.
Okay.
She is the goddess of death. She is not death personified.
Right.
Okay.
As far as the Asgardians go,
right.
It might as well be, and it takes on a similar function, but she speaks here and there. She does fight once in a while.
Yeah, I think I got confused because I think I'd read something, or maybe we did something on the rundown recently, Nick, about how Marvel is kind of introducing a Thanos and Hela kind of deal in the comics. Is that correct?
Yes.
Or am I making?
Yes.
All right, that's where I got mixed up on.
Thanos has a type, you see.
Mm-hmm.
How do you think Thanos would feel about Raven of the Teen Titans?
Teen Titans Go? Or
no, not
if that's the only Raven that's in my house right now is Teen Titans Go Raven. Because I have small children.
The Jennifer Smith version of the Valkyrie just showed up.
Wait a minute. What are you trying to imply here, Nick?
Take from that what you will.
Yes, Valkyrie, played by Tessa Thompson, who was previously only known to me through her role in Creed, where she was great as the I can't remember her character name, but the love interest of the breastular character, Creed. Here she shows up as Valkyrie, yet another character I know nothing about. But I do know this, she's freaking awesome in this movie.
She is not classic Valkyrie, she is a second generation kind of Valkyrie, like a reintroduction. The Valkyrie I knew was one of the Defenders and had the name Brunhilde, was kind of the classic Aryan Wagner character with the pigtails and breastplate. But Tessa Thompson in this movie is great as this iteration of a different Valkyrie.
Yeah, and it's kind of like a Green Lantern type thing where like you can be a Valkyrie and not necessarily the Valkyrie that people think of when you use that name. So like this one is one where there are so many Valkyries that you can kind of like not really have an issue with this and still, be something of a purist from the comics. So I'm good with this actually.
Valkyrie is one of my favorite karaoke songs.
I don't know if I know that one.
Valkyrie.
I think he's trying to say Valerie, but yes.
Oh, good. Very good. Okay, this planet, Sakaar. Where is this planet from? This planet is from the...
I'm assuming it's a... Yeah, oh, never mind, go ahead.
Yeah, it's an homage to the Sakaar planet, Sakaar planet, in Planet Hulk, which is a book or a story that has a pretty big influence on this movie, actually. One of the primary influences on this movie. Planet Hulk was a story written by Greg Pak and drawn by, I don't remember. And it came out around the mid-2000s, around 2006, 7, around the same time as, or a little bit before the Sinestro Corps War from DC. And the premise of it was that the Illuminati, which was a collection of Marvel's smart characters, which there are a lot, but a collection of their very smartest characters, they decided that the Hulk was too dangerous to have on Earth, and so they tricked him and sent him off into the deep recesses of space, where he ends up on a prison planet of sorts. Think War World in DC from Mongol, where people are imprisoned and forced to fight for the entertainment of someone. In this case, it's the Grand Master, who we have not yet met, but will soon meet.
And Planet Hulk was fantastic in its own context. Oh, we get Hogun is back.
Hogun?
Or is this Ho-Ho Gun? No, wait. That's a different dude.
That's terrific. Ho-Ho Gun is how I will forever refer to this character now. Ho-Ho Gun. So, Nick, tell us a little bit more about Hogan here, or Ho-Ho Gun. What's his deal?
I'm not sure exactly what you're asking, but he's one of the Warriors 3, and after the events of the opening scene of Dark World, which take place on his home realm of, I believe, Vanaheim, he had chosen to stay behind and help restabilize there after that opening scene, and here he has come back to the defense of Asgard, clearly having heard of Hela's, actions and the death of his Warriors 3 brethren. And here he is about to die just as quick and pointless a death as the Warriors 3 did previously.
Oh, now I would disagree with that. This is a good death to me. Like
Hogan gets to show some ass here and get his stuff in, if you will. A little bit. Yeah, I mean, but it's not a Hogan movie, so he's not going to beat Hela. But I think he gets a good chance to at least show that he's fighting and show that he's got, some skills. He deflects her blasts, which is something no one's done yet to that point. Greg, you're an action scene aficionado. What do you think of this one?
I like it. I think it's really good, actually. I think
the colors. I like
the colors. The choreography is good. The fact that it's both showing that that it's very easy for her, and also showing that these warriors are good warriors. They're not all attacking her exactly the same way. They're coming at her from different angles, and she's just unaffected by it. I actually think in general, and they even got a stab on her, and it did nothing.
Yep.
I think in general, the action scenes in this movie are great. I think this is actually one of the better, surprisingly, because this is a guy that I was, has not, to my knowledge, had not done any action scenes really before this movie.
No.
And
we should talk about this director.
I thought they were all really good. Yeah, Taika Waititi. I don't know much about him, actually. I don't know. I've never seen the movie that he's famous for. I know he's famous for one movie in particular called
What We Do in the Shadows?
Yes.
Or Hunt in the Wilderness.
So if you've seen it, please take over.
Well, it's kind of like if you've seen, and I don't know if Waititi has any connection to Flight of the Conchords, but it's kind of like, imagine Spinal Tap. This is Spinal Tap, which is one of my favorite films of all time.
Oh, yes.
But about the vampire kingdom. So it's kind of a documentary or a faux documentary about vampires and how they live in 21st century Earth. It's pretty amusing. It's well done. And, if you've seen Flight of the Conchords, you can kind of get the tone because some of the actors are the same in that.
Distinctly New Zealand kind of sense of humor.
Very much so. And, this is almost like, in tone, Marvel saying, hey, Guardians did really well and Thor didn't, so let's make Thor Guardians.
Yeah.
It was a loaded statement, but I knew Nick would, whether you like that happening here in your Thor, or you've got your Thor in my Guardians, you got my Guardians, my Thor, it was financially successful.
Now here we have an homage to Willy Wonka's Chocolate Factory.
So was Suicide Squad, by the way?
An homage to Willy Wonka's Chocolate Factory?
Financially successful.
Oh, well, it's all relative.
And there you see the...
well, I'm just talking Suicide Squad. Suicide Squad against the prism of other DC movies, sure. Thor Ragnarok against the prism of other Marvel movies, different story. It made what it was expected to make.
Right. Here's the Willy Wonka homage of Doom here. What's interesting is every time I see this scene or I hear the music, I think about the Family Guy parody of Willy Wonka instead of the movie, which I love the original movie, but I think about Nick living in a world of pure inebriation.
That was yesterday, sir.
Very good.
For more of inebriation, check out Todd Weber's performance on the third biennial Peter David Memorial comic book draft on Hard-Traveling Fanboys. So, Jeff Goldblum as the Grandmaster.
Jeff Goldblum as the Grandmaster, who okay, guys, maybe I'm speaking out of turn again. I don't have the knowledge base here, but I'm assuming nothing like the Grandmaster.
Nothing whatsoever.
Nothing. Again,
very much like Jeff Goldblum.
Which is what you knew it was. I mean, like, yeah, I don't really have a problem with this. This is awesome. I wish it were in a Guardians movie and not a Thor movie, but I can't complain too much.
Complete with him snapping his fingers for no apparent reason as they're moving him closer to Thor.
He's great.
This guy is amazing. Thor and Chris Hemsworth, who, okay, possible exception here of Robert Downey Jr., but is the funniest, other than that, of the Avengers cast, of the Marvel cast. And this is the perfect interaction here. As arrogant Thor is meeting the Grandmaster, who seems to be fancying the Valkyrie there, would you say?
I think we're all fancying the Valkyrie.
I think he's fancying a great many things, is the way I'm taking it.
Yes.
I think he's fancying Thor. I like that robe.
Yeah, the Collector, or not the Collector, wrong movie. The Grandmaster we first saw in the Contest of Champions miniseries in the early 80s, as my friend Ben Morse would tell you, was a precursor to the Secret Wars, which was kind of the first very successful company-wide crossover at Marvel. And Grandmaster would kind of evaluate these characters he would kidnap them and then pit them against each other in contests of champions. He had the Angel versus other flying characters and so on and so forth. Strong characters, Hulk versus Thing, and he was, the Grandmaster was completely blue-skinned, if I remember correctly.
And here he just has the little blue soul patch.
Yes.
Because if anyone can pull off a blue soul patch, it's Jeff Goldblum, who can pull off damn near anything. Now, that character that was just vaporized into a puddle of goo that Goldblum stepped on, was that a new character, or did he pop up?
He looks like the guy from the prison in Guardians of the Galaxy. But
yes.
I don't know if it
exactly
was him or not, but it definitely looked like him.
And he's apparently the Collector's cousin here.
Did not know that.
Oh, wow. Asgard.
Hello, cousin.
Asgard. So Carlo is I think is the name, but yeah, I have to look that up because he does look awfully familiar to the guy from Guardians, which is kind of a cool nod if that's the case. I kind of like that. And now Thor and Loki seeing each other again, always awesome. Loki's always gonna go ahead.
Pay attention to the background characters. You get some great Kirby influence designs here on the Sakaar.
Oh my god!
Elite,
right.
Very Kirby oriented.
Oh my god!
Soldiers
right, yeah.
and party goers, and even the band looks very Kirby. So yeah, I dig that stuff.
I've never noticed that. I've seen this movie probably 6 or 7 times now. I've never noticed that before. That's awesome. Very cool. But yeah, Loki to me, like one of the things that Nick and I have talked about when we're talking about the show Arrow on here is how the character of Malcolm Merlyn is always the one thing that's consistent about him is every decision he makes is only for his own good in the long run, and that's kind of Loki here as well, because Loki will occasionally show you glimpses of goodness underneath, but in the end, Loki's going to do what's best for Loki. Is that fair to say?
That's a defining trait.
Yes.
Yeah.
There are rare instances where he may act out of some sort of larger sense of responsibility or care for his family, but those are exceedingly rare and haven't really occurred to this point in the MCU.
Here we introduced to another new character. Go ahead, Todd.
I think those impulses in Loki may have gone away when his mother passed away in the Dark World. That part of him may have died. Frigga. I know. Here's Korg. We have Korg.
Korg, who, by the way, you may disagree with me, Todd, much better on the movie, much more interesting, I should say, in the movie than he is in the comic, to me.
Korg, yeah. Is he a comic thing? Because I've never noticed him in the comics.
He was in
Planet Hulk.
Yeah, this is much better. Because he is played by the director, Taika Waititi, and I don't know if you guys knew that, right?
Yes.
The voice.
This is Waititi. So
yeah,
he's great.
Yeah, he's really funny. Honestly, the funniest thing about him was the first time that I heard his voice, because I had read Planet Hulk maybe a year or two ago, and that was never the voice that I was expecting for Korg. I was expecting very deep, very, honestly kind of generic, and it's like a deep, serious voice. And then he comes in and he talks like a little boy or something. Hey there, man. What's going on, man?
That's almost pretty good.
A little bit Stewie, So, yeah, very cool, very funny. He's a
you're not going to face him, are you?
No, that's what Doug said. Goodbye, new Doug. Which, by the way, I just realized that could have been Stewie or Paul McCartney. I don't know, but either one, nonetheless.
Hey, Joel.
There they are back there. But yeah, Korg, and we only see him for a brief moment, but Meek, who Korg introduced Thor to, is actually a huge character in Planet Hulk, who they barely touch on at all here. But Meek is actually one of the most important, ended up being my favorite character in Planet Hulk, actually, the book. But they don't really do much with him on here. Understandably, he's a little bit out there as a character goes. You have to do a lot of backstory on him to make him interesting, but a nice little nod for those who have read the comic. I don't think that was there for any other reason. So let's get into some of the cast here. We always try to do this. We'll start off with the obvious one, Chris Hemsworth. I'm sure we all loved him in the movie.
Yeah, he was great.
Handsome gentleman. Trying to be funnier here, or directed to be funnier here than he has in previous Thor installments, and maybe even a little bit more swarthy than in the Avengers, but he doesn't take himself as seriously here. Thor is having a better time.
Yes, and as a result, interestingly enough, going into making this movie, Chris Hemsworth had indicated for a while that he was winding down his Marvel career, that he was pretty much ready to move on. Same thing that we've heard Chris Evans say for years, basically. But the experience of making this movie was so fun for him that now he was filmed versus any of his other performances.
No, I mean, not much you can say about him. Like, he's just so damn good that it's hard to find anything really to add to that. The tone even probably actually helps his character a little bit, because he's able to that character fits more naturally into this sort of story than Thor does, in my opinion.
Yeah, he gets more one-liners and things like that in this, and he's so consistent. He's old faithful in these films. You're never going to get him not standing.
2 or 3 heel and babyface turns in this movie, really, over the course of it. So that's kind of interesting. So we talked about Cate Blanchett already. I think, Todd, what did you think of her performance? Nick and I have already talked about it, but what did you think of Blanchett as Hela?
This sequence where she, Hela, reanimates these fallen Asgardian warriors, it's very Skyrim, if you've ever played at the Draugr here. And Fenris, who in the Norse mythology is Hela's brother.
Yes.
Yeah.
Wow. Her brother.
And Loki's child.
Yes.
As Hela is.
The children of Loki.
Yeah. Interesting stuff, the Norse mythology. As opposed to the North mythology, which is...
totally different. The Oliver North mythology.
No, the Peter North mythology.
Oh. Nick's familiar with that.
Tales how skew.
The looks fell far from the tree in the Fenris and Hela relationship there. Mm-hmm. But which way? Who else? Who else is in the cast that I haven't mentioned? Oh God, what's his face? Freaking the Hulk.
Yeah, we haven't even seen him yet. We haven't seen.
We have not
yet.
Right. What's his bloody name? What's that actor's name?
Mark Ruffalo.
Mark Ruffalo. Ruffalo.
Raphael.
Anyway, he's awesome as well in this.
Master Splinter.
You know, the best Hulk to this point.
Oh yeah,
probably.
no doubt. I mean,
yeah.
And it's pretty funny how, I mean, spoiler alert, how they keep his identity as the Hulk secret from the Valkyrie until late in the film, and so he gets a lot of great Bruce Banner moments.
The whole just like his befuddled reaction to everything when he wakes up as Banner and is being brought up to speed on everything. Thor not wanting to admit that he got his ass kicked by the Hulk. You know, that was awesome. I definitely won, all that stuff. That doesn't sound right. No, that was just an awesome exchange on this ship between them. And then, just in general, the way that they handle the Hulk in this movie, it's definitely a powered down Hulk from what we had seen in the first Avengers movie. We've seen that with each subsequent Marvel film. I feel like every time that the Hulk appears, it feels like he's powered down a little bit. But in the course of this movie, the CGI has never looked better for him. The way that they almost have the Hulk with a personality of an aging toddler, basically. In the early movies, he's just can't talk. He's just noises. Then we see him in this movie. He's almost like he's reached that angry toddler stage, where he reacts to everything with rage and jealousy and selfishness, and even at one point throws a temper tantrum where he doesn't even say anything. He just shakes and just slings his arms down in frustration at one point.
He's getting more and more verbal as we go, but still not articulate.
Right. He's maturing at a very slow rate and reaching different ages. And I very much appreciate it. As you guys know, I'm not a big fan of smart Hulk, so to speak, but I like the way they use Talking Hulk in this movie quite a bit. His personality is great. It establishes his relationship with Banner that will play out in Infinity War. And just in general, Ruffalo adds so much character to Bruce Banner, who is a character that, oftentimes in the comics can be sans personality. So another home run casting, another home run character change for Marvel, in my opinion.
So this is off topic because it is not necessarily Ragnarok, but it is Avengers 3 Infinity War. There are some that say that you don't actually get a whole lot of Hulk in that film, and you don't even get a whole lot of Bruce Banner in that film, in that this is not a Reddit, I guess it's a Reddit thing, but people are saying that Loki doesn't die, he instead disguises himself as Bruce Banner. Have you guys heard that or thought about that?
I've heard and I don't buy it.
Yeah?
I've not heard it.
No, because the scene inside the Hulkbuster armor where he tries to change and the Hulk pops up for a second and then fights its way back down, I think kind of debunks that.
Yeah. I mean, it is true to the Hulk's personality, but I guess I don't feel like we've had a sufficient explanation about why the Hulk is that freaked out about Thanos, I guess, Yeah,
I think it's yet to be seen. The way that, again, off topic, but the way that I interpreted that is that the Hulk has never really had his ass handed to him before and doesn't know how to handle it as he's reaching that childhood stage where Stanley cameo.
Stanley the barber.
So, you shall not touch my hair. You'll feel the wrath of the mighty Thor. And then it turns into meek and begging, please, kind sir. Tremendous. Turns into Oliver Twist all of a sudden. More? Might I have more? But I took it as he's the time that the bully gets bullied for the first time. And he doesn't know how to handle it, so he tucks his tail between his legs and doesn't want to come out from behind the desk, But we'll see. We'll see how it plays out in the fourth one.
That's still a couple episodes of Hard Travelers for Hire away.
Absolutely, which we will
unpack that.
I think we're planning a special big one for that one, right, Nick?
Oh, excellent.
For what one?
Infinity War.
I think for the fourth one, we were planning on a big giant thing, but I don't know. We'll get there at some point.
We don't know much about having big giant things, but nonetheless.
So we're on the floor of the Imperial Senate here. I think I see the ETs. And
this is how democracy dies.
This is how a prequel trilogy dies.
To thunderous applause. Nick, your thoughts on the Galactic Senate and their vote?
I don't know.
Short hair Thor.
Yes, Thor's luxurious golden mane has been chopped down to the level of a short golden mane. It kind of looks a little bit not unlike Green Arrow here.
Yeah, I can see that. Yeah,
little Amelian, bigger though, and more Australian.
I must become someone else. I must become some other genre of film.
He's also wearing kick pads, it looks like.
He's got a cricket bat.
Thus, he would fit in perfectly at the world-renowned independent wrestling show SCI.
And then we get a Thor helmet. I mean, one thing about these MCU films, they take away the headgear from so many characters. They don't wear their masks. They don't wear
that's true.
Their hats. And here we get kind of a streamlined, technological kind of helmet that we're not used to seeing Thor in. And oh, look, it's the Hulk.
Is this an homage to Beta Ray Bill, the helmet?
No, but they should Beta Ray Bill at one point on the tower that has the faces on the side.
Yeah, as one of the champions.
Yeah.
Yep.
Or at least maybe not Beta Ray Bill himself, but definitely one of his race.
One of his race individuals.
That would suck if we never get Beta Ray Bill. We need to get Beta Ray Bill. And Thor is totally out of character here.
Certainly will. This is awesome, though. I love this scene. He's a friend. Not he's a friend from work, which is the scene from the trailer that killed everybody in the audience first time. But particularly when Thor forgets all of his issues with Loki to say, "Look who it is, Loki." This is funny shit. And Hulk is clearly different than he was the last time we saw him. Loki is just thunderstruck right now, so to speak.
Well, yeah, who's kicked Loki's ass more than the Hulk at this point?
Still, one of the most iconic scenes in our MCU watch has been the Hulk ragdolling Loki in the first Avengers movie.
I do like the paper mache Hulks in the crowd, and but he's been the Hulk for 2 years, which is cool.
Wow,
thinking about it,
and I guess that makes sense why he's evolved then, because this is the first time he's not just switched back and forth. I wonder if that also might tie into why you also almost explain that why he's not quite as unstoppable as he's been in the past. He's still a force of nature, clearly, but you know, the Hulk in Avengers 1 was established as probably easily the most powerful of the Avengers, and you know, seemingly a level above even Thor. Here, they're more portrayed as equals here, I think.
I love the look they gave him, the Planet Hulk look.
Mm-hmm.
But it feels like to me that Thor is so out of character here. It really does. I said that earlier. And every time I see it, it's like, would he say that? That? You know, he's just not taking himself seriously at all. Yeah, he's my friend from work. If
you think there was a problem with self-seriousness, let's say that's one end of the spectrum, and they overcorrected by going to the far other end of the spectrum. They could not find, they were incapable of finding a happy middle ground until Infinity War, which did it best.
Now the sun's getting low. That was, of course, a joke in reference to the somewhat unique Age of Ultron gimmick of Black Widow saying that to the Hulk in order to get the Hulk to calm down and thus Bruce Banner to reappear. Thor tries to use it here to not as successful a result.
Yeah.
And down goes the Hulk. Well, maybe not.
Pretty good fight scene, all things considered.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I thought, I've been very vocal in our rewatches about the fact that I think they've gotten better, certainly over the years, but certainly the early Marvel movies had very poor fight scenes, with the exception of the first Avengers movie. Very, very poor, not particularly clever fight scenes, and oftentimes action scenes that are just dull. And I said that about Spider-Man Homecoming as well. But this movie, I can't really pick out any that I think are bad. I think they're all good.
Yeah, the three big ones to me.
But in the meantime, we're watching as the Hulk pounds. Wait a minute, let me rephrase that. We're watching as the Hulk punches Thor repeatedly. I'm sure he pounds him at another time, but
pretty man.
Yes. What a time to come back in, Todd. You blanked out on us.
This Skype sucks, man. What the hell, Skype?
We're going to find a new audio chatting format besides Skype at some point. But yeah, we didn't hear what you said there, but I'm assuming you're talking about the
three. Yeah. The end fight. I mean, I guess there's four if you consider the very first immigrant song scene, and we should talk about Led Zeppelin before we go too. But yeah, the action in this film is actually its strongest thing to me.
It's really good, all the scenes, yeah, and up to this, up until Infinity War, the scene at the end of this movie where Thor arrives with Mjolnir and just wrecks.
No, not Mjolnir.
Not Mjolnir. Whatever it is. What is it?
Yarnbjorn.
I don't know.
Stormbreaker.
Yarnbjorn.
Flurgenhergen.
When he arrives with
Betty White
Klinsman and starts wrecking shop. It is the best Thor action scene far in the MCU to this point. To me, it's not even close. It's the first time in the MCU that I've really felt like Thor was God level powerful, as he shows up and just decimates everything in his path in a way that we haven't seen him do in either of his prior movies or even in the Avengers movies to that point. Just awesome stuff. So I was really impressed by all the action here. Scourge the Executioner gets an interesting subplot in this movie where he ends up feeling so guilty for the things that he's done in service of Hela that he kind of makes a heroic sacrifice in the end. Now, this is another interesting character shift because maybe I'm wrong on this, but it feels like in the comics or in the cartoons that I've seen him in, Executioner's usually pretty one-dimensionally evil.
He had a redemption arc in the Simonson comics, and Nick will back me up on this, that is not entirely unlike this one, only he died there. They may have brought him back since then, I don't recall, but here he's called the Executioner, and yet he doesn't kill anybody.
No. Or I think he intends to kill somebody, but doesn't. He gives up before he actually gets a chance to do it. Heimdall. We haven't mentioned Heimdall, played by Idris Elba, of course. And he gets an arc here where he's kind of a protector, someone who's helping the commoners in Asgard avoid Hela's wrath and fury. And certainly, he gets more to do here, I would argue, than he does in any of the other movies that he's appeared in the MCU.
And he's got dreadlocks.
Yes. He actually looks not unlike Bishop.
Doesn't have a giant M on his forehead. He's got golden eyes. He still... That's not the same sword that the Bifrost sword, but it's a sword. He gets more to do, but still, it feels like a waste of Idris Elba to me.
Well, you could make the argument that just casting him as Heimdall is a waste of Idris Elba, because Heimdall is never going to be a very, he's not going to be a top tier Marvel character. And so, you could definitely make that argument. I would certainly think that if they could go back in time, they would probably cast him as something else. But I like how they use him here, and he does. He would have been a good bishop had there been Marvel X-Men movies. But
speak friend and enter. We got a lot of Lord of the Rings stuff going on here.
Well, here's an interesting thing. If you could take Idris Elba and not have him be Heimdall, who else would he play in the MCU?
Rhodey.
Mm-hmm.
Interesting.
Rhodey. He could have been Black Panther, possibly. But,
The Bishop.
when Marvel finally gets the X-Men property back, and they started off with a Bishop solo movie.
Yeah, I mean, he's middle-aged, so there's that kind of limits what you can do with him.
That's a good point. Yeah, that's the one thing that holds me back on the. For years, everybody wanted him to play Jon Stewart, and that was the one thing. Is like, not that it really matters, I guess, because Tom Cruise is still doing, action movies at 100 years old or whatever. But I don't know, that maybe he'd be a little bit too old for John at that point. I don't know. Anyway, that's beside the point. What we have here is Thor and the Hulk getting to know each other. This is a good scene as well, I feel.
Hulk in a hot tub.
Hulk in a hot tub, yes. As every great fighter does, you have to take the bath afterwards.
Yeah, I do like where Hulk is as Hulk himself at this point. Hulk always Hulk.
Hulk's hair is interesting here too, because maybe there's a small part of me that is hoping that one day we'll see the Hulk. I don't even know, how would you describe the Hulk's hair in the 60s and 70s?
A bowl cut.
Prison haircut.
It's like maybe this is the sword I'm going to die on, the same way it is with Osborn here. I don't know.
If Charles Childers could grow hair.
No banner here. Hulk, always Hulk. What is the Hulk eating?
It's an exotic gourd of some sort.
Looks good. Actually, it looks like nasty ass squash or something.
We have Thor talking about Ragnarok and prophesied, selling it, but we're halfway through this film already. So if anything, I think I don't necessarily hate the tone of it. It's funny. It was clearly successful, like we've talked about, and most of the people I know really enjoy it. But the pacing of it feels kind of weird. So much of it is a Planet Hulk movie or a Planet Thor and Hulk movie, and less a ultimate battle for Asgard, like I was led to expect based on
the title.
Right. Yeah, the title and the Simonson comics and just Norse mythology in general.
Yeah, it is interesting, and this is. I better not say that, because I'm not 100% sure. This has got to be one of the shorter MCU entries, right?
Yeah, it is.
Which is interesting because they've kind of. I'm almost never going to complain about a major motion picture these days being too short, because I think most of them tend to be too long.
It's 2 hours and 12 minutes or so, right?
Yeah. Well, I mean, I don't know. Let's see. What is the
first Hulk movie is not that long.
Yeah, it's about 2:10. This one, counting the credits and everything. So it's like they probably could have stretched this one. They probably could have stretched this out just a little bit more. The pacing is a little fast. There's one thing you can't accuse it of being boring. There's always something happening.
And
this is a weird thing here.
Psychic connection between
Heimdall. Yeah.
It's like,
I guess I've never thought of them as having that close of a connection.
The Last Jedi or something.
Right. It's another topic entirely. Yeah, it's interesting because I've never maybe that's another thing with the Thor movies is I don't think that they've established his connection really to any of these side characters as being particularly strong. Whether it be Heimdall, whether it be the Warriors 3, really any of them.
Or Sif, who's not even in this film.
Who's not in the film at all.
Sif. There goes Nick. Sorry. Triggered.
It is what it is, man. It just...
Did they even mention her?
No.
They
mentioned Jane Foster.
Here's what it is. And, this is just the way I feel about it, and you guys probably have a different take.
There's Beta Ray Bill.
The powers that be, whoever they were, whether it's Kevin Feige or whether it was Taika Waititi or whoever, they came in and they decided that everything was broken about the Thor mythos and decided to aggressively just start changing things. Just for the sake of change. The hammer, let's break it. The hair, let's cut it. Visually, let's change it. Let's do this. Let's do that. Let's have him act like a completely different character, and none of it makes any sense. In my opinion. And they walked some of it back in Infinity War, also in my opinion. Because it went too far.
I think it was all part of the plan.
All part of the plan to go down the road, then bring it back. You're right.
I mean, in the bigger picture of the Avengers films, these are two of the less developed characters. And so you get more of their individual moments, more of the chemistry between them. But we don't get an explanation for why suddenly Thor is flippant about everything. I mean, he's been arrogant about everything but actually funny or...
the explanation is because Waititi wanted them to be. That's the explanation.
Yeah, I mean, Waititi wasn't going to make a...
Nobody makes
Ragnarok film.
Yeah. Nobody makes unilateral decisions in the MCU. Seemingly, anyway. Just ask Edgar Wright. Here's Hulk talking like a kid.
Yeah, same.
Hulk like fire, Thor like. I love the little competition between them throughout the film. Raging fire. And then Thor briefly puts his ego aside to try and get Hulk on his side.
So I have seen this film maybe 5 times as well, and I fall asleep, but every time right about here. But it might be because I'm an old man who falls asleep at the movies, not because anything's wrong with the film. At this point, you get comfortable and settled in, and then I don't know what happens when you hit your mid-late 40s.
Not that you have.
Yeah, I have. But I have. I mean, I watched this not long ago, and I was asleep throughout this part, and I didn't wake up again till Banner was in the Jean Nagel T-shirt, the Duran Duran-esque T-shirt, and the Revengers had been formed.
Revengers.
Good Lord, she drinks. Yeah, you're right. It's Jennifer Smith.
Yep.
Well. Now, Valkyrie did not appear in Infinity War.
Nope.
Interestingly.
No. She's with Korg.
Nor did Korg or Meek.
Or Hulk. That was Loki. I'm just kidding. Sticking with it.
Now,
you and your weird Reddit rabbit hills.
You know me. It's what underachieving older men do. They come up with conspiracy theories.
How about at the Braves game that night? I saw a dude actually wearing a legitimate InfoWars T-shirt.
Oh Lord!
Real.
Was this when you were at
real news?
Or
no, the Braves game on Friday.
Oh wow! Yeah.
Was it an InfoWars Braves jersey? Sorry.
No, it was like a T-shirt.
That would have been funny.
Like an actual InfoWars. Like he sent money to Alex Jones in exchange for this T-shirt.
It's aliens.
Yeah.
Martians. And pyramids and temples.
Alex Jones.
Children.
Okay, bear with me, guys.
Tim Cable.
Alex Jones is Sheriff Hugo Root
Not bad.
Well,
Hugo Root gets to see his kids.
damn.
Scene.
Oh,
That's that.
good lord. Well,
I do like the Scrappers kind of world here. It's a lot this color scene. I like the visual look of it. They're stealing a ship, it looks like here.
well, the set design, yeah.
No, this is
look
the
of
Quinjet that, I thought this was the Quinjet, I think? Or no?
Yeah.
Yes, no?
Oh, yeah, the Quinjet that Hulk.
Yeah, this is the Quinjet. I couldn't tell if the interior was the Quinjet or Valkyrie's ship that he was trying
Which
to
in
get
the
to.
comics, the Quinjet that takes Hulk to Planet Hulk, he gets this like pre-recorded condescending message from the Illuminati, I believe, in the form of Professor Xavier.
Primarily Reed.
No, Reed. Reed is the
that's
lead.
right. Yeah, Reed. And he gives him this extremely condescending, in typical
Also-
Reed Richards fashion, this incredibly condescending message.
I hope they get Namor because I want Illuminati. I want just like the dicks of the MCU on screen all together. And who is
Sitting
it?
in a circle, just being dicks.
Yeah. And it's Iron Man. It's Doctor Strange.
Black Panther,
It is Black Panther. Namor, Reed, and
Professor X.
Professor X.
Yeah, I mean those are great comics.
Who? Okay, let's assume this is way off topic, and I apologize to the listening audience, but nonetheless,
It's all right.
we're talking about the Illuminati. Who would you guys have as the MCU Professor X, assuming they're going to recast?
God, I don't even know. I don't
You
know.
know,
I'm just going to Google bald actors.
Was the guy that played the Thing in the old Fantastic Four movie?
Michael Chiklis.
Michael Chiklis.
Not a good Professor X.
No,
But bald actors, I think Ben Affleck might be a good pick there.
Oh.
That's a two-pick.
Hey, Stanley Tucci. But he's already been in the MCU.
Who was he in the MCU? Oh no,
He
you're
was
right.
Dr. Erskine.
Yep. He of the super soldier serum.
But that wouldn't be I'm looking at a picture of him. I can
about-
kind of see it.
What about Mark Strong?
Yeah, that would work. But that'd be a younger, sleeker, sexier Professor Xavier than I would be.
I think it's
Like
kind of
the whole James McAvoy thing kind of weirds me out as it is anyway. So
I think they could racially flip Professor X.
they could.
Yeah.
John Malkovich. Ooh, Gary Oldman if he went bald.
Gary Oldman can pretty much play anyone.
Anything.
So anyway, the premise is they eventually get off Planet Hulk. They go back to Asgard to try to take on Hela.
Hey, what
And
about
we
a
get the-
bald Colin Firth doing it? That'd be cool.
Actually, yeah, that's not
Kingsman.
bad.
That's not bad. He's about the right age.
Yeah.
Hugh Grant.
Oh, I say, Gene, that is, I shouldn't feel this way, but you see, but
You know what, Rock?
I like you.
And then David Sunday would just think it was the best thing ever.
I probably would too. I'm not going to lie.
I think we need an Indian American Professor X, like Aziz Ansari or somebody like that.
And of course, Aziz Ansari would put together an X-Men that also had Louis C.K. and various other comedians who've been accused of improper behavior. Chris Hardwick work his way
Bill
in there
Cosby.
somewhere as well.
It's Professor X.
And Bill Cosby, yes.
What do you see? Scott and Gene are not supposed to be together.
Here's a Quaalude.
Thank you.
Anyway, so they get
More
off
Kirby. More Kirby here. Lots of Kirby.
Oh yeah, the weapons too.
Yep.
Can you guys imagine how bad they're going to screw up the Fourth World movie if it ever happens?
I don't think it's going to happen. Wrinkle in Time was not well received and didn't make any money. And DCU is kind of like a one movie at a time thing at this point. So, yeah, I don't think they're going to make it.
Yeah, I mean, it's nothing against Ava DuVernay, but like, I just can't imagine as badly as they've screwed up with the mythos to this point. I just can't imagine that they will understand how to make a fourth world movie. I'm not sure that I understand how to make a fourth world movie, to be honest with you, but
I think it won't work necessarily in the context of the greater DCU.
No, well, the greater DCU isn't even a thing anymore now. Like they pretty much said, they've given up because they're bad at it. So
we're bad at it. Loki, yet another heel turn incoming here. What the hell is that? Anyway, yes, they get off the Hulk planet eventually. They go back to Asgard. They have a big battle at the end of the movie here, eventually.
I have never seen this scene before. This Hela versus the Valkyries. I've never seen the scene before. Mm-hmm.
This is good. This gives the Valkyrie some actual emotion to her character.
Don't get old, guys. It's not recommended.
I mean, it's already happening to us.
I mean, all the points you get for being a daddy, it's not worth it. You fall asleep.
Now, is that anything to be considered to be compared to a dream daddy?
It's very much like it, only you don't always have dreams when you sleep.
No, see, there we go. Well, this is an interesting topic that should be re-explored in the back half of our show.
We call it our rear view.
Mm-hmm.
It has its own segments.
And we in no way do we know already what the back half of the show is going to sound like.
Look at that Duran Duran t-shirt that Mark Ruffalo is wearing. Or Ruffalo.
No, I understand that Duran Duran is quite the popular group at Place to Be.
My cat is
get back to Asgard, and
I personally would like to say that I'm a big fan of everyone, and I can't even fake my way through that horse shit. Fuck all of you if you're listening.
Oh, hungover Nick.
And 3, 2.
No, you can leave that in. Leave that in. I'm good with that.
So here we are back on planet Hulk, and they eventually get to Asgard, and they have a big fight, and they don't get along, and they fight. And they have a great battle sequence. And they set the battle sequence to a Satan song by a Satan band who is who I am fond of. And that, of course, is Led Zeppelin, a rock and or roll band from the great nation of the United Kingdom. And, I said this when we were talking about God of Thunder, the Thor God of Thunder series by Jason Aaron several years ago, Nick. If you're not listening to Zeppelin while reading a Thor comic, you're not getting the full experience, in my opinion. It is like so much of their catalog is steeped in Norse mythology, is steeped in this love of various mythologies, actually. Tolkien, Norse mythology being the two predominant ones. And Immigrant Song is just the perfect, absolutely as perfect as anything in the Guardians movies as far as soundtrack matching a scene goes. There is just something majestic about watching Thor cast to the tune of Immigrant Song.
There was a time that Led Zeppelin wouldn't license their music for anything. Mm-hmm. And all of a sudden we're starting to see Led Zeppelin, or hear Led Zeppelin in movies. We're hearing them on TV, on shows like Sharp Objects and Mindhunter. I got to say the pairing goes very well.
Yeah, it's like, the first time I saw an issue of Thor God of Thunder with Esad Ribich's art, I said, man, this is like a Zeppelin song turned into a comic book. And so it's very, very perfect. I agree, Todd. I remember those days when you couldn't catch a Zeppelin song on anything. And then either Jimmy Page softened in his old age or just needed the money and decided to start licensing the songs out. But regardless, I'm happy that it happened, and hope to see even more Zeppelin songs used in future Thor movies. How about Achilles' Last Stand for a Thor movie? That would be cool, too.
Yes, I'm trying to think other the ocean. That would be the one I'd like to see.
Yes. That would be quite good. Carousel Alhambra, not so much. For those who aren't Led Zeppelin aficionados, Carousel Alhambra was a synthesizer-based song off their final studio album, In Through the Outdoor. I wouldn't.
I'm trying to think. That last album doesn't really count to me.
Yeah, I agree. Anyway, So with all that being said, I guess we can start winding things down and getting into our final thoughts, unless there's some topic that we haven't touched upon yet. Anything else before we wrap up our final thoughts on Thor Ragnarok?
Not that I can think of.
No. Certain thoughts are going through my head right now, but they have nothing to do with Thor or.
So, Nick, you were just making a sigh/orgasmic noise.
Yeah.
What are your thoughts on Thor Ragnarok?
It is a competent, or not competently is underselling. I'll try to be nice. It is a well-made movie. That accomplishes in almost every regard what it sets out to do. I just have major issues with it on a conceptual level that I will probably never be able to get over. So I like the movie. It's still not a bad movie. It is in no way, shape, or form what I was interested in seeing, though.
Very good. I'll go next. My final thoughts on Thor Ragnarok. One of my favorite Marvel movies to this point. The one that I have seen in theaters the most, actually, at this point. I think I saw it 4 times. At least 3 times I saw it in the theater, which would tie it with the first Avengers movie in that regard. But I think it's probably in Civil War. But it's the one that I've seen the most, I think, since then. I've probably watched it, 5-6 times at this point. I just continue to enjoy it every time I watch it. I think it's the funniest Marvel movie, even over the 2 Guardians, which are amazing. I think it's I don't know. I think it's got great action. So for me, it's the best Thor movie, and it's the top tier. I'll have to see where it'll rank on my list in a minute. But big fan. Todd,
quiet moment here. Meek is leaking eggs or protoplasm or something, and it cracks me up every time. That's legitimately funny. That gets me every time. The way Korg talks about that, and Meek doesn't really speak, which is kind of works for me.
Yes, agreed. It would have been hard to pull off the way he speaks in the comic. So, your thoughts on Thor Ragnarok?
Todd's thoughts?
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Well, it feels like Guardians 3. More like Guardians 3 than it does Thor 3 to me. Even though it features none of the Guardians, it is just that tone. Funny cosmic, I guess. If those were the adjectives we were going to talk about, but not necessarily a Thor Asgardian epic that you would think to expect with the title Thor Ragnarok. That being said, tremendously entertaining. Apparently what more of the MCU audience would wanted to see. From my experience, people, I know one person who doesn't actively think this movie's great, but and he's on this panel with me tonight. It's kind of in the middle for me. It's very funny. It's extremely funny, actually. But I was expecting something else, and every time I see it, I enjoy it more. I think it features more rewatchability than Dark World, and maybe as much as the original Thor film does. But it's still not in the top tier, but it's certainly not in the bottom tier for me either. And we'll get to rankings coming up.
Absolutely. And in fact, I know that's one of the hardest things for us to do because you don't have the luxury of having the list right in front of you of your built-in rankings. So we'll save yours for last. But it's that time of the show where we get to our to this point rankings.
Expect a little of me, but I have my rankings ready.
He's ready.
Oh, excellent.
Prepared.
Excellent. Well, that's good to hear. That's right. Sometimes I forget that you are the manager. You're not just a manager. You're the manager.
It's like manager / 6-year-old child who takes everything personally, but
only when you drink, which can be heard on the biennial
fantasy comic strap. Oh God! All right.
In any event, Well, yeah, we'll definitely get to you in a second. But what we do is we rank the films to this point in our MCU journey, and we also like to look at how the critics have ranked them to this point. So, Nick, I'm going to let you get away at this point. If you would like to reveal where the composite critic and fan score would put Thor Ragnarok.
Yeah, so again, using the Metacritic, Rotten Tomatoes, and IMDb scores, all of those on a scale of 1 to 100, so a combined total of 300 would be the absolute maximum. We'll run through these real quick. 17th, in dead last with a total of 190 points, we have Thor: The Dark World. 16th, with a total of 196, we have The Incredible Hulk. 15th, with a total of 200, we have Iron Man 2. 14th, with a total of 204, we have Thor. 13th, with a total of 214, we have Iron Man 3. In a tie for 11th, with totals of 215, we have both Avengers Age of Ultron and Captain America: The First Avenger. 10th, we have Ant-Man with 219 points. 9th, we have Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2 with 227 points. Doctor Strange comes in 8th with 136 points. Captain America: Winter Soldier comes in 7th with 237 points. And then we have Spider-Man: Homecoming at 6th with 240 points. The Avengers in 5th with 242 points. Captain America: Civil War in 4th with 244 points. And then making its debut on the list in 3rd place with 246 points, we have Thor: Ragnarok. And then we have Guardians of the Galaxy in 2nd with 248 points. And still, the reigning undisputed champion at number 1 with 252 points, Iron Man.
Very good. So where did Ragnarok place again?
3rd.
Interesting. I zoned out for a moment as I was looking at my own list, trying to figure it out. You want me to go first, Nick, or you?
It's up to you.
I reckon I'll kick things off. At number 17, I have Doctor Strange. At number 16, I have The Incredible Hulk. At number 15, I have my ceiling about to collapse, it sounds like. Anyway, Thor: The Dark World. At number, 14? Thor.
Mm-hmm.
13, Captain America: The First Avenger. 12, Ant-Man. 11, Spider-Man: Homecoming. 10, Iron Man. 9, Iron Man 3. 8, Iron Man 2. 7, Avengers: Age of Ultron. 6, Guardians of the Galaxy. 5, The Avengers. 4, Thor: Ragnarok. 3, Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2. 2, Captain America: The Winter Soldier. And number 1, I have Captain America: Civil War.
Okay.
Damn, I hate choosing between the Avengers and this one.
Ugh, my lord.
I hate listening to your rankings of the Iron Man.
I'm aware of the unpopular nature of my Iron Man opinions.
Indeed.
Wow.
I'll go ahead and go. At 17, I have Ant-Man. At 16, I have Iron Man 3. 15, I have The Incredible Hulk. 14, I have Thor: The Dark World. I have Doctor Strange at 13. Iron Man 2 at 12. I have Thor: Ragnarok at 11. I have Captain America: The First Avenger at 10. I have Thor at 9. I have Iron Man at 8. I have Guardians of the Galaxy at 7. Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2 at 6. Spider-Man: Homecoming at 5. The Avengers at 4. Avengers: Age of Ultron at 3. Captain America: Civil War at 2, and Captain America: The Winter Soldier still number 1.
Your turn, Todd. Here we go.
So, as though my opinions matter. All right, so we're going from 17 to 1. 17, Thor: The Dark World. 16, Iron Man 2. 15, Hulk. 14, Doctor Strange. 13, Avengers: Age of Ultron. 12, Ant-Man. 11, Iron Man 3. 10, First Avenger. 9, Thor. 8, Thor: Ragnarok, the film we just spoke about. 7, Guardians of the Galaxy 2. 6, Guardians of the Galaxy. 5, Iron Man. 4, Spider-Man, Homecoming. 3, Avengers, aka Avengers Assemble on IMDb. 2, Captain America Civil War. Number 1 is Captain America the Winter Soldier, which is clearly the greatest film ever done by the MCU. Clearly.
I agree, Todd.
In my opinion.
Clearly, it's number 2 behind Civil War. But I have to say, all of us have those 2 as our top 2 movies.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, well, they're the 2 best.
Yes.
Until Infinity War,
Infinity War.
Then there's the 3 best.
Yep.
That's going to be an interesting one to try and decide where Infinity War falls on mine, because I'm not as high on it as either of you were.
Well,
but
Black Panther is
but I'm
pretty
certainly not as low on it as Tim was. So it's going to be it's interesting. It's going to be interesting to see where Infinity War falls.
Ooh. I thought you were talking about Harley. And what people don't realize is Harley Race has sent us in his rankings of the Marvel Cinematic Universe.
Oh, they're more relevant than Harley Quinn Smith's. Hashtag criticism.
Throwing bombs. Oh, God.
Right.
Now, here's the problem with this joke setup, folks. I don't actually have enough knowledge of Harley Race's opinions of things to even do fake Harley Race MCU ranking. So we're just going to abandon that line of thinking. It would probably have something to do with smoking 8 packs of Marlboros a day and getting in fights every day at the bar. I did. He just punched guys in the face.
Harley's head looks like a stalk of cauliflower.
He looks like his hair in the day in the 70s. He looked like, with the sideburns, he looked like, what was his name? Sebastian Shaw of the Hellfire Club.
He's still just a grown-up version of Thurman Merman from Bad Santa, is what he looks like.
I tell you what, Harley Race would probably kick my ass right here, right now.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. No one is debating that. Like, it's just, he's a weird-looking guy. I think we can all acknowledge that.
He looks like a stalk of cauliflower.
There you go.
With a crown.
Who's the cauliflower Green Lantern?
Oh, yeah.
Play him.
I think it has, like, Phil.
Medfill,
that's it. Yep.
Yeah.
I knew it had the chlorophyll callback in the name. I just couldn't remember the actual name.
Harley Race is Medfill.
Medfill. Just spray paint him green.
God damn it, kid.
CM Punk talked about in an interview one time going to Harley Race's house. What are we even doing with our lives at this point?
Is there a wrestling minute this week?
No.
No, we haven't done one, actually. We could do one.
Oh,
no.
Look at the time.
Oh, God.
It's a minute. I've got a minute on the clock.
First half of HTF.
It's time for the wrestling minute out of nowhere. Todd, as we were saying, I've, whatever mistakes have been made in the course of a few days, I'm certainly over them. But there was indeed a wrestling event called All In over the weekend where things happened. There was other things that happened in the world of wrestling in the last week. Mae Young Classic, right?
I didn't watch any of it.
Starcast.
Didn't watch any of that either.
Enough money, you can hang out with Stinky Conrad.
Now, what is your beef with Conrad Thompson of all people?
It just looks like there's a certain scent.
No, he doesn't. I'll admit, he looks a little bit like the guy that played the Fat Man on Jake and the Fat Man. He does, just a little bit. Will Conrad was his name, I think.
Yes. There was a bulldog on that show, too, if I recall
correctly. Yes! And the bulldog kind of looked like the Fat Man, too.
Did the bulldog marry Ric Flair's oldest daughter?
I was about to say, I'm assuming Conrad Thompson smells like Ric Flair's ass. It's considering how much time he's brown-nosing.
Tony, who's your favorite ass to kiss, and why is it Ric Flair's? We would just like to say for the record that if Conrad Thompson is randomly listening to this episode of the Hard-Traveling Fanboys, we mean no offense. We actually would love for you to sponsor our show, sir.
Mm-hmm.
And speaking of sponsors, Todd, have you had any experience with Blue Chew yet?
Blue Chew, is that the stuff that's blue and you chew it like gum?
And it makes your dick hard.
Wood?
Yep.
It gives you wood.
Yep. It not just gives you wood, but it really puts you in it has supplements in it to really increase every aspect of your performance, your focus, your stamina, You know, it's not just about the erection with Blue Chew. It's all the other little things that go into it as well.
Your output?
Yeah,
Absolutely.
I mean, I gotta tell you,
your efficiency.
I gotta tell you, because I jar all of mine for safekeeping in my closet, and I gotta tell you, my output went from somewhere in the neighborhood of 5 milliliters a day to 175 milliliters a day on Blue Chew. It's incredible.
Wow, it's
incredible.
That's a Howard Hughes like amount.
Yeah, it is. I mean, it's nuts, man. It just.
You might say, and join us at home if you've heard this expression before, but Blue Chew gives you wangs.
Mm-hmm. Wangs.
And with that said, Todd,
where are we?
Todd, tell us a little bit about what people can expect from you here in the near future at Place to Be Nation Pop.
Yeah, you can find me at Todd Weber on Twitter. I also produce lots of shows here on Place to Be Nation Pop, including this one, including the Marvel Age podcast, of which I am a co-host, Marvel Age Masterclass, Geek and Sassy, usually talking pop, unless Dustin Rosero is a guest, and then he chooses to edit that to make
by that logic, you only do about half the episodes of talking.
Yeah, one in every three. Justin is on almost every episode of that show.
Almost like there's a reason. I wonder if there's a reason for that.
Yeah, no. I wouldn't know. Anyway.
Nor would I.
So, yeah.
What the fuck just happened?
Thank you for having me here on HTF, and it was good to talk Thor Ragnarok, which is almost over now.
Yes.
Terrifying.
We've almost
got a light just
goal.
Turned on. I swear to God, guys, I'm sitting in my room in the dark, and a light just turned on by itself.
Now, there's probably a 15% chance that there's an intruder in your home.
No, I'm sitting in the room. I can see the light from where I am, and it flat out ass just turned on by itself.
Stranger in the dark.
So when I die
somebody hear that I can't something.
Oh, a little Ronnie Millsap. I like it.
Yes.
Thank you. I actually listen to country music here and there, or at least in the 80s.
Good country music, not modern country music.
Here's a question for you.
Yeah.
You want to get controversial, guys? Here's a question for you. Do you think Ronnie Millsap was really blind?
Yes.
Well, see, here's the thing. How could... Oh, never mind.
But Roy Orbison wasn't.
There was somebody in his house that he couldn't see. So it was like, never mind.
I don't think...
I misunderstood the lyrics.
Is Charlie Pride actually black?
Yes.
What about... who's the guy?
I think that's it. I think it's just Charlie Pride.
No.
No, the guy from Big and Rich, right? Or not Big and Rich.
What's he trying to ask? I'm trying to...
There's a guy I'm trying to think of that I'm running out of... I can't think of his name. I'll think of it in a second.
Was Freddie Fender really a Fender?
That's the Texas Tornadoes. He's really good. Freddie Fender. When Freddie Fender died, somebody put up a prayer petition for him at church. Please pray for the family of Freddie Fender. And I just lost it. I was up on stage.
Did you do a little before the last
Johnny Mathis? That's who I was trying to think of.
Oh, Johnny Mathis. Yeah. Did you do a little before the last teardrop falls in memory?
I did. I just kind of took a quick snort and then played it off like I was sneezing.
Before the last teardrop falls.
He and Aaron Neville should have done more stuff together at some point.
Yes. Aaron Neville.
Oh man, what's the deal with those moles?
Oh God! If I ever become notable for any reason, or even if I don't, one day we're gonna have a roast of me, and I'm gonna want Todd Weber to be the keynote speaker. He's pretty damn good at it.
3 heads in Ragnarok. Did you see him? There was a dude that had three heads.
My iPad died. The battery's dead, so I finally stopped watching that movie. I didn't really want to watch anyway.
No, you need to get an iPad Pro, my friend. Longer battery life.
No, I don't need to last that long, as you guys know.
All right.
Well, not without Blue Chew. Certainly.
No. Oh, yeah, Blue Chew. I mean, Blue Chew, I went from an average of 28 seconds to an average of 45 seconds. Now, that's a 17-second improvement, folks.
So Hel is about to kill Thor here, and he flashes back and has a meeting with Odin, who tells him that Asgard is not a land. It was never the land. Asgard is its people. Are you Thor, the god of hammers? What are you?
So, do you think this is going to lead to Asgard being rebuilt in Oklahoma?
I actually thought they might do it there at that place where Odin died in Norway. You know, that big open field. That was what I thought they were setting up, and then they didn't go there. And then they killed off half the Asgardians, plus another half. Because remember, Thanos showed up and manually killed half of them, and then half of the remaining ones are dead now as well. So you only have a quarter of the Asgardians left.
We don't know that he manually killed half of them, because we didn't see we didn't see any of them except for Thor.
No, when we opened...
the guys in the beginning, yeah, but we didn't see, like, Valkyrie, we didn't see...
right. So they boarded one ship and killed everyone on the one ship. They let the other ship go, because Thanos kills half the people. And then half the people on the other ship were wiped out by the snap.
True. Oh, snap.
Mm-hmm. So you have a quarter of the Asgardians left.
Oh, and there's the disturbing void that is Thor's eye.
Yeah.
Nonetheless, we are done talking about Thor Ragnarok. Todd, thank you so much. How can people find you on Twitter?
We've already talked about it.
Ah, yes.
Yeah.
At Todd Weber Guitar. And in the meantime, we hope this with us through the break, folks. Commercials here coming up. We've got an insatiable appetite.
Thor just leveled up here. It's a pretty great moment. Yeah. Thank you for having me on, guys.
Absolutely, Todd. Anytime.
You never know.
Having you on.
You never know what the loose cannon is going to say.
That's right. The loose cannon of Place to Be Nation. Pop. And Todd himself has an insatiable appetite. and I have an insatiable appetite for food, which I'm going to eat during this commercial break. And when we come back for the not at all pre-recorded back half of the show, you're going to hear all kinds of thoughts and highly energetic talk between Nick and I.
Yes. All right.
Promotional consideration paid for by the following.
Hey, pro wrestling announcer Kevin Kelly here. I want to make sure you are all subscribed to all the great feeds here at Place to Be Nation. It's really easy to do. Just head to iTunes or your preferred podcatcher app today and search and subscribe to the Place to Be Nation wrestling feed, which of course includes the full archives of the Kevin Kelly Show, the Place to Be Nation pod feed, and the Pro Wrestling Only feed. Subscribe, listen, and then rate us and leave feedback today. And be sure to give Justin your true thoughts. I mean, don't hold back. After all, he is kind of a jerk. Just listen to Scott.
Place to Be Nation's JT Rosero and Chad Campbell here. We want to let you know that we have a ton of great podcasts available to you on iTunes, Stitcher, Google Play, and PlaceToBeNation.com. We offer them to you on two great feeds. On the Place to Be Nation Wrestling feed, we bring you the Mothership, the Place to Be podcast, along with Main Event, Survey Says, the Monday Night Wars, and our monthly pay-per-view reaction show, as well as Jeff Learns Wrestling. In addition to these full-length shows, we also deliver special network podcasts and pod blasts on topics old and new.
Over on the Pro Wrestling Only feed, we dive deep inside the wrestling business with a stacked army of experts leading the way. The feed features potpourri shows such as This Week in Wrestling, Greetings from Allentown, Match of the Week podcast, and the Military Industrial Suplex. We also have shows that focus intently on certain topics like Through the Years, Worldcast, Strong Style History, Strong Style Story, and Mount Olympus. Plus, the feed has the full archives of legendary shows like Titans of Wrestling, Where the Big Boys Play, Letters from Center Stage, and Letters from Kayfabe, plus much more. And on our very popular Place to Be Nation Pop podcast feed, we offer such great shows as Talkin' Pop, the Glenn Butler Podcast Hour Spectacular, NBA Team, PTBN Play, Sunday Groove, Breaking Balls, and Lucha Undead.
As well as a veritable podcast heaven for comics fans.
With the Hard-Traveling Fanboys, Sellers Points, Todd Weber's Conversations, Geek and Sassy, and Marvel Age Podcasts.
You can find all of these current shows, plus archives of our past podcasts, including The Kevin Kelly Show, as well by subscribing to both feeds on iTunes. And while there, be sure to rate and leave feedback today. All these shows, plus others, available at PlaceToBeNation.com, where we cover pro wrestling, sports, movies, comics, plus in-depth stretch projects, and more. Be sure to support our site by using PlaceToBeNation.com/Amazon when doing your online shopping, and download our free PTB Vintage Vault Refresh ebooks via the links on our site. We also want to thank our friends at Boneheads Wing Bar in West Warwick, Rhode Island, and Fall River, Massachusetts, and thehistoryofwrestling.com. Be sure to follow us on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and Tumblr as well. PlaceToBeNation.com, the only place to be in your pop culture world.
Hi there. Have you recently gone through a crisis? Did you find out your friends have been lying to you for years to cover up something they did? Have you discovered that one of your bitter enemies might actually be 3 people? Were you seemingly killed by a new god only to find yourself quantum leaping through time until you make it back to the present? Was your entire reality wiped out in a cosmic battle between 2 godlike beings only to be reborn, destroyed, and reborn again? Then join me, Russell Sellers, and my special guests as we help you manage your post-crisis life in DC Post-Crisis Management, a limited monthly series starting in September. We can't promise you closure, but we will try to avoid destroying your hometown and turning you into a homicidal maniac who wipes out time.
Welcome back to the final portion of the Hard-Traveling Fanboys. We welcome you to this back half of the show. And Nick, I think one thing that can be said for the both of us is we have a significant rear end portion of our show.
We do, yeah. I'm, as everyone knows, I'm all about the rear end. So there you go. And especially, on a day like today where, if you can't tell, this is clearly the highest energy episode that's ever been recorded of the longest running
weekly episodic comic book podcast in all Place to Be Nation.
We're going to refer to this as the Eeyore edition because that's pretty much what we sound like, I think. We are just... The world has beaten our ass over the last 24 to 48 hours. So
that is correct.
We are doing the best we can.
We're doing the best we can. We call this the rear view.
Mm-hmm. We call this phoning it in to keep the streak alive.
That's exactly right. Our streak is going to reach Goldberg levels before too long, Nick. Do you realize that? We're not that far away.
Our streak, the best thing about our streak is that one day we're going to get Ray Stevens to sing a song about it, I think is the key.
Absolutely. I think he still lives in Georgia somewhere, so you can probably find him.
Yeah, I'll look him up, because I actually, as a former resident, or as a native of the state of Georgia, I still have my directory they pass out to all of us that has every person who's ever lived in the state of Georgia with their contact information. So I'll get up with him.
That's right. I get the same for Alabama, but pretty much the only individuals of note that it has listed in it are like Hank Aaron and other baseball players from the 30s.
And Channing Tatum, right?
Channing Tatum. He's all right.
Jason Aaron.
And there's a Jason Aaron. He's done some things. Mark Wade.
Or as Beth Mowens might say, Jason Aaron.
Jason Aaron.
Oh my God, dude! Mowens. I watched the replay today. Just listen. It's not to get too far off topic, and it's not to say that she's bad at her job because she's a woman. If she had a man, she would be bad at her job. Wait a second. If she were a man, she would be bad at her job. Oh, God. What are we doing here? She's just bad at her job, ladies and gentlemen.
I was going to say either Beth Moen or Bill Walton.
Bill Walton. They should put them on a broadcast together at some point.
I think that the nation's collective ears could not handle such a combination. But nonetheless, there are individuals from Alabama who have done things. Bob Sparkplug Holly.
Yeah. Oh yeah, Bob Sparkplug Holly. Yeah.
Who I don't know if I've ever mentioned this story on the podcast, and I probably have multiple times, but I'll say it anyway. I saw him at Winn-Dixie one time.
Yeah. Just buying groceries.
Buying groceries, like buying milk, actually. Man. And I looked over and I said, my goodness, look at that large man. That's Bob. My God, that's Bob Holly. And my mom, who was at the store with me at the time, I was in, this was probably like 2001. I was in high school, I think. And she's like, well, why don't you say something to him? I said, because it's Bob Holly.
And then he looked at you and he said, why don't you give me the belt?
How do you like me now?
And then what?
Anyway,
and then I beat everybody.
We're not here to talk about Bob Holly or backstage politics. We're here to talk We're here to talk about our weekly look at the news and notes in the world of comics. We're here to talk about the rundown, Nick.
Man.
Welcome to the rundown.
Yes. And quite a bit going on in the world of comic books. Quite a bit indeed going on.
Because it's been, it's been 2 weeks since we've had one of these, so we got a little bit of stuff to cover.
That's right.
So
we're going to cover it. We're going to cover it as tightly as a Troy cornerback trying to cover a Boise State wide receiver.
Which is to say, not very tightly at all.
Just to say, not tightly at all. For those of you not following at home. Alec Baldwin, famous actor. Alec Baldwin. Can we do a show on Team America?
Oh my God, can we?
Property?
Can we? That would be amazing.
We can just do it for PlayStation Pop. It doesn't have to be for our show.
Underrated song from that movie. Freedom isn't free.
Yes. No, there's a hefty fucking fee.
And if you don't throw in your
bucko 5, who will? Freedom costs $1.05. Matt Damon. Anyway,
everyone has AIDS.
Oh goodness. Well, speaking of debilitating conditions, the motion picture, The Joker, the solo film about the Joker, had
that the world demanded. We literally willed it into existence, didn't we, Greg?
Yes, it had a very interesting week. You see, Alec Baldwin, famed actor, who I mentioned a moment ago, seemingly out of nowhere and for no reason. In fact, there was a reason. It did come from somewhere. Alec Baldwin was announced as joining the cast of the Joker film, playing the role of Thomas Wayne. However, like 2 days after that report came out, Alec Baldwin says, turns out he's not doing it. So he's got scheduling conflicts, and presumably someone got in his ear and told him that this is a bad idea, and so he's not going to do it. And
the part of this report that was more interesting to me than even the Alec Baldwin was the alleged take on Thomas Wayne that I hated with a passion of 1,000 dying suns. I don't even know if that metaphor makes any fucking sense, but I hated it.
Tell me more in your energetic state, Nick.
The take, as it was described in the report colon, was that it was going to be a take on Thomas Wayne inspired by Alec Baldwin's turn as Donald Trump, a quote cheesy tanned businessman of the 80s. And I'm trying to think of something that would be a worse idea for an adaptation of Thomas Wayne than that, and I'm struggling to find anything. That defeats almost the entire purpose of that character, in my view.
What about Thomas Wayne as a woman-beating, child-beating alcoholic?
That would be bad as well. But, the problem is in that scenario, he would be played as something of a villain, I would think, and thus you could almost tell the story of, like, Bruce, learning a positive lesson from his father's negative
worldview.
The problem with the Trump take is they almost certainly would play it for comedy, and unintentionally the audience might find it endearing in a way, and I don't think that's what you would want. And the whole thing sounds bad, Greg, and I don't have anything else to say about it because I'm running out of words. So it sucks, and I hate it, and I'm glad it's not happening.
Well, speaking of things that are not happening. Or rather things that are happening and also not happening. Let me explain. You see, last week, DC held a live stream hosted by Nick Duke, subject of joy. That was a convoluted way of saying that. A person that Nick Duke likes, Kevin Smith.
Yeah, Kev got to host that.
Kev.
I was glad for Kev.
Your good friend Kev.
Yep.
I understand, Nick, that you've actually attended 4 Kev shows in the last 2 days.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I mean, so I actually have a running list of all the Kevisms, all his popular sayings, and I've been trying to check them all off, and I'm only a couple away, and once I get that, those couple, and my life will be complete, really, and that, I was just happy to see Kev get the gig. You know, I know he's a good dude and good for him. Had a tough year this year, and you know, I sent him a get well basket, and you know, he sent it back and with a note explaining that I needed to stop sending unsolicited personal gifts to his house. But you know, that's not the first time that's happened. It probably won't be the last. And I you know, it just clearly must be some sort of mix up with the Postal Service. But we'll work through all that.
Yeah. Well, the one thing that's clear is that you're all in on Kev.
Yes. Yeah.
So, but nonetheless, Kevin Smith hosted this DC live stream. It was like a 3-hour event that was designed to unveil information and answer some questions about the DC Universe streaming service. Now, Nick, did you get a chance to watch any of this program?
No.
I did. I watched the first 2 hours of it. I still haven't gone back and watched the final hour, and enjoyed it for the most part. There were some of the things were a little over the top for me, but overall,
that is post weed Kevin Smith. Everything.
Yes,
I mean, he's just going to be an over the top guy.
Yeah, and I don't blame him for that. I mean, some of the setups were a little over the top, but I thought he did a good job hosting it, and I thought the Jim Lee was engaging and kind of entertaining in how shy he was. And then the Terry Hatcher had a great interview with Kevin Smith, which was fun, and that was all good stuff. But in any event, they announced that the unveiling of the release date for the DC Universe app, which will be Batman Day, September 15th, 2018.
Can you explain something to me?
Sure.
And this may be a stupid question, but I don't really give a shit right now.
No, go ahead.
What the fuck is Batman Day?
Batman Day is in terms of what is it in practice, or why is it on September 15th?
Yes.
I don't know why it's on September 15th. I could probably look it up. Probably has something to do with the release of Detective Comics 27, I would assume. Batman Day started a few years ago as being this worldwide celebration of Batman. So comic book shops, it's a gimmick basically to get people into comic book shops.
No, I get that. I get that part. I get that part. I guess I'm struggling with why. Of all the characters to need an entire day long celebration for, don't we celebrate him every comic book day essentially?
Well, pretty much, yeah.
I don't know. Anyway, not to get off.
Pretty much,
and also I don't understand why it's September 15th. So.
I'm gonna kill time right now by saying things to you right now.
While you use the Google machine.
Things that
so the DC Universe app, it's going to come on Batman Day, which we all know is September 15th. And by we all know, I mean I literally had to have somebody else tell me what day that was, because I don't know what the fuck day Batman Day is.
I don't know why it's September, because I just looked it up, and Detective Comics 27 came out in May of 1939, so I don't know why it's September. But I'm sure there's a reason, and our listeners can let us know. In any event,
I'm sure they'll do so in very condescending fashion as well, which is always good.
Which is always fun, yes.
Yep. Point being, this DC Universe app is coming out September 15th. Yes. You can sign up for the 3 months? You get the
3 months. Yeah, you got to do it before then, I guess. I've done it. I did it. Actually, I got paid the other day, and I went ahead and I pre-ordered the thing to get the 3 months.
I need to do it. I hadn't done it yet. How much was it?
It was like $70, something like that.
For the first 3 months, and then you get something free, or how's that work?
No, it's for a year, but then you get 3 months added on to that.
Oh, so like $70 for 15 months. That's not
15, yeah.
That's not unreasonable.
No, it's not. You know me though. I always hesitate to spend a large chunk of money in one time.
Yeah,
But that being said, it was it's a better deal than doing it month to month. I think month to month is like $5.99 a month or $6.99 a month, something like that.
Yeah.
So it's a better deal for sure to do it this way. So
tell me about this app. You watched the show. What did it reveal about the app that you didn't know other than the release date?
Well, let's see. It revealed, first of all, what we're going to talk about right now, which is that Titans is not going to be available on launch as initially thought. Titans is actually going to be available, Nick, as you may be aware, on October 12th, almost a month after the app launches. And I thought this was somewhat of a surprising announcement.
I think it's a bad move, honestly.
I agree.
Not that I'm beating down the door to get to Titans, based on that trailer. But, you're launching a very niche, an app that's targeted at a very niche audience, and you're doing so with no original content at launch. You're expecting them to come in to drop money on the table, essentially for stuff that we've all experienced before in some way, shape, or fashion. Now, yeah, depending on how far back you're going with the comics backlog, a lot of us probably have never read some of those comics, but we don't really have a guarantee of what all is going to be on there. You know, there's no new original content. So basically, I mean, what would you say is the biggest selling point of the app at right now? I'm guessing probably the HD remaster of Batman the Animated Series.
That got a lot of the focus on the live stream, to be honest.
Which, don't get me wrong, it looks phenomenal. I've seen some of the clips. I can't wait. I'm going to probably watch the whole damn thing again because it looks so good.
Yeah.
But it's a show that we've revisited, and you know, we as a comics loving community have been celebrating and rewatching for the better part of 20 years now.
Yes.
So it's hard for me. Yeah, it looks great, but I just don't know that it's I don't know that it's an app seller, I guess is my.
So here are some of the things to answer your question that I remember. I'm going off memory. I'm actually not looking it up right now because I'm quite frankly, I can't be bothered to.
Mm-hmm.
But from the top of my memory here, we found out there will be 2,500 comics approximately at launch on the app. We don't know what those will be outside of certain ones that were shown on there through a Greg Capullo demonstration. We saw the Dark Knight Returns.
2,500 sounds like a lot, but it kind of
but it's
isn't.
really not.
Yeah, it's really not.
Not in the. I mean, I don't know how it compares to when Marvel Unlimited launched. It may very well be more than what they had when they launched, but when you look at the pantheon of DC history, I mean, you figure how many weeks are there a year? 52 weeks a year, obviously.
I mean,
and
think about it. If you look at Action Comics alone, Action Comics has hit 1,000 now.
True. Yeah.
I mean, that one title could, in theory, be almost half of what's available.
Well, you combine Action Comics with Detective, and that takes up most of that 2,500 if you add them both. So it's obviously not going to be comprehensive, and they did, and they doubled down on it during the live stream. Kevin Smith answered one of the questions that it will be a rotating list. So
did they give a reason?
No.
Because fuck it, that's why.
Yeah. So, but I could tell you some of the ones that I saw in there were Dark Knight Returns,
which we've all read 1,000 times.
You're right. Watchmen,
which we've all read 1,000 times.
Yes. What else was on there? Some of the New 52 launches.
Oh boy.
Batman, The Flash, Wonder Woman. George Perez Wonder Woman was on there.
Okay, that's cool. Hey, that's something I might actually read on there. Okay.
Yeah.
That's one thing you've named so far that I might actually read.
And then a bunch of, then several of the Golden Age stuff. Like, Sensation Comics #1 and,
hey, that's cool. That's a good idea.
The original, whatever the book was called that the Justice Society was in. Was it Justice Society? I don't know. I don't know.
All-Star?
Whatever the hell it was called. All-Star Comics or whatever.
More fun comics. Whiz Comics.
More fun. Whiz-Bang Comics. Okay.
Whiz Comics.
Yeah. Ho wow comics.
Hey, that's actually a good question, and not one that you'll be able to answer because I'm going to ask something completely out of left field. But the Captain Marvel stuff, how does Golden Age Captain Marvel work with it originally being a Fawcett publication? Does DC own the back issues? You know,
my understand. Well, that's a great question, and I don't know it 100%. I believe that they own all that stuff.
Okay,
because I think they've done reprints of it. I think they bought it at some point, but I'm not 100% sure.
Well, they got to put that out there. I mean, because it's like. That Golden Age Captain Marvel is the only accepted or valid take on the character, and to put any other Captain Marvel book out there would be a disgrace to the character, and it would be something worthy of going to the DC offices and setting them on fire.
Yes.
And yourself in self-immolation to prove your dedication to cause.
Yes, and taking a dump in a bag and setting that on fire as well.
Yes, all of these things.
On fire.
Yep.
It's poop again, as you know.
And then, right before you set yourself on fire, you slit your wrist and you spell Captain Marvel, not Shazam, in the blood on the street.
That's exactly right. And then you have sex in the blood. But anyway, all that may be on there. I'm assuming the racist ones will not be on there.
Aww.
That's just a guess on my part.
Aww.
But nonetheless, so that's the comic book side as far as I remember. Oh yeah, the way that they do the reader is kind of interesting in that it's like a You've got a couple different ways to view it. You can do it page by page, obviously. You can do the panel by panel view that we're used to with like Marvel Unlimited and Comixology. Then they have like a free roam kind of way where you can like scroll around the page however you want to, which I kind of like that. That's kind of neat. And then they got one that I don't really think I'm ever going to use, which is an autoplay function. And as you can imagine, Nick, don't think that's going to work for me.
No, because you're going to want to take too long on each panel.
Yes, because it's going to like automatic for people that are like normal readers, I guess. It's good because it like it'll just take you through almost like a motion comic in a way, where it'll guide you along the page at its pace or whatever. But you know me, I like to take my time. Let me
ask you this: what is the status of Place to Be Nation Comic Book Theater Watchmen appearing on the DC Universe app?
I sent Kevin Smith an email with that very question. He has not yet responded to it, so I can't answer that. What I can also say is they revealed that the Wonder Woman will be available on the network at launch.
The Linda Carter show.
The Linda Carter show, Wonder Woman. Also, the Lois and Clark, The New Adventures of Superman, will be there at launch, as they discussed with Terry Hatcher on the show. And so that'll be cool. And then I believe they said Superboy will be available on launch. That's the 80s series that I haven't watched since I was a little kid, so that'll be interesting. And then the entirety, it appears, of the DCAU will be on there, although I don't remember seeing Static Shock.
See, so, I thought I had read somewhere that only the first 2 seasons of Batman the Animated Series would be up.
Ah, well, that may be, because I'm just going off of what I saw available. I saw Batman the Animated Series listed. I didn't see it broken down season by season. And I saw, of course, Justice League Unlimited, Batman Beyond, Superman, seemingly all on there.
Justice League Unlimited, right?
Unlimited, yeah. Did I say Dark?
I don't know.
Whatever the hell. And then a couple of the animated movies. It looks like a swath of the New 52 animated universe movies. It will be on there. Yeah, so you saw Wonder Woman. I saw the Batman Mystery of the Batwoman. I saw on there. And then actually one of the newer ones, Gotham by Gaslight.
Oh, cool.
And also The Dark Knight Returns on there. What else? Oh, they're doing a daily DC news studio show.
Yeah, Kevin Smith's going to do it, right?
I don't know. I don't remember about that, but what I do remember is John Barrowman is going to do it.
Yeah, it's him and Kevin Smith doing it together, I believe.
So, Barrowman is a pretty big get for them because, Malcolm Merlin and all that, and he was entertaining as hell. So that's good. And other than that, I mean, that's kind of the main things that I remember. The best part of the show to me was other than the Terry Hatcher interview, was they did a segment with Kevin Conroy unveiling the HD Batman the Animated Series stuff and talking through it. And, he revealed that his favorite Batman episode was the same as mine, which is Perchance to Dream. So that was cool. And he gave a cool behind-the-scenes story about how the visuals were such a huge part of Batman, and he's happy that this remaster was done because people can finally see it how he and Mark Hamill saw it for the first time when it was revealed to them in like this giant, glorious definition and everything. So that was really cool. So other than that, I mean, those are kind of the things that I learned from the show. Nothing groundbreaking, really. Nothing groundbreaking, but that was wind-breaking.
No, that was, I don't know. Sure, whatever.
And that's it for that. So, anyway, interesting stuff. An individual who's had an interesting several years, going back to some tax problems, Nick. That is the legendary action star Wesley Snipes. Many may know him as Willie Mays Hayes. Many may know him as Blade. Many may know him as the guy from Passenger 57. He's had a hell of a career there, old Wesley Snipes. Well, he says that he has been in talks with Marvel for several potential roles in their universe, including potentially a return to his role as Blade. He says, we've created 2 projects that fit perfectly into this world, and when people see them, I think they're only going to have a problem with deciding which one they love the most. He says the ball's in Marvel's court right now, but nonetheless, I'm a big Wesley Snipes fan. I miss the days of him being a top-notch action star. So I'm kind of excited about this. I'm not sure if it's true or not. A lot of times actors sounds like stuff like this, and it's just BS. So
yeah, it sounds like bullshit, honestly. But
it's not a lie, but
it's bullshit. If it happens, I would assume it's probably for Marvel Television and not for Marvel Studios proper, wouldn't you?
Yeah, I would assume that, but because there's not really been that sort of like Midnight Suns approach to the movies yet. That's all been kept to television.
That's why I'm making that assumption, yeah.
I would assume that, but if it's not Blade related and he's playing some other role, I could see that as well.
Yeah, a Black Panther role, for example. I mean, whatever.
Yes, a Black Panther role, any number of roles, really. There's all kinds of villains that they're eventually going to have to bring in a bunch of new villains, so that would make sense. I can't see him really playing a hero role in the MCU right now, but then again, I've been wrong before. Not often, but occasionally.
Occasionally. All right, so yeah.
You know, one thing that I was wrong about, Nick, was when I listened to your commentary about the football weekend, and I changed my pick, and I picked Michigan to defeat Notre Dame.
That's true.
I should have known better, but I didn't.
Yep.
But nonetheless, moving on from that, who knows what that's going to turn into? Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3 is turning into a gosh, what's a good word for it, Nick?
A clusterfuck.
There we go. A clusterfuck of a situation. And right now it looks like the project is actually being delayed indefinitely because they don't have a new director to take the place of James Gunn, who they've announced that they're not going to bring back, despite the wishes of the cast and many of the fans. And
you know what's crazy?
The project is sitting in limbo.
I think the longer this goes on, I actually think they might have to revisit that at some point. I know they said they won't, but like the longer this goes on and the more you run the risk of alienating the cast and possibly killing the franchise, I'm just wondering if you don't have to reconsider that, 6 months, a year down the road if this, limbo status continues.
And the longer you get away from it, the more people forget about it.
Right.
The controversy.
The issue itself, yes. That is accurate.
Perhaps you're right, and I hope you're right, because I think that would be for the best of the movie. But, nonetheless, we have to move on to some rather sad news in the world of comics. As the world of comics lost 2 prominent figures this past week. Legendary artist Marie Severin passed away at the age of 89 following a series of strokes. She had a long and distinguished career with Marvel, working on Doctor Strange. She co-created a personal pet favorite character of mine, the Living Tribunal, who I mainly knew from his image, basically, on the Marvel cards. She worked on Iron Man, Conan the Barbarian, Kull the Conqueror, the Not Brand Ek, Satire Comics, co-created Spider-Woman, designed her original costume. Just one of the legends and the giants of the business. And then also on top of that, at the age of 75, Ghost Rider co-creator Gary Friedrich passed away, who also scripted the first appearances of the Blue Beetle. So, just a series of very unfortunate situations here. Longtime creators passing away, Nick.
Yeah, not overly familiar with Gary Friedrich, but Marie Severin I have just now kind of started to be introduced to through our work over on the Marvel Age podcast, and of course we will have lots to say about her in the coming episodes, and probably a little bit of a miniature tribute on our next episode, whenever that may be. Hint, it may be in the very, very near future, but kind of an underrated influence in comics. More iconic than she probably gets credit for, But, rest in peace to both of these individuals. I know the comics community feels their loss. But they definitely left a lasting impression on the industry and fans, and I hope in death they attain that level of notoriety they deserve.
Right. Well, and I think that often, sadly, that seems to be the case in comics, Nick, because a lot of times it takes death for comic book creators to get the attention that they really deserve, whether it be Jack Kirby, whether it be Steve Ditko, whether it be any number of a long line of individuals that oftentimes go unappreciated until they're gone. And then people realize, hey, these people had a way bigger impact on the history of the comic book industry than we realized. Bill Finger, another good example of that. So one of the things that would be great is if in future generations, as we go on, as comic book fans, as podcasters, as anyone that writes about the industry, if people can start to show some attention and some love to these creators while they're still alive, and make sure that their names are as well known as they need to be. And I think we're starting to see that a little bit with the movies as we get those end credits that have thanks to the following creators, and it's like, in Infinity War, I think we saw like 8 or 9 names listed on there. So, that's a good thing. I hope we continue to see that going forward.
Yep.
Well, one of the characters that was prominent at Marvel back in the day, around the same time as some of Marie Severin's great work, was Conan the Barbarian. And Marvel is relaunching Conan the Barbarian with a brand spanking new creative team of Jason Aaron and artist Mahmoud Asrar, along with colorist Matthew Wilson. And that title will be launching in January 2019. So, Nick, what is best in life?
What is best in life is to crush your enemies, see them driven before you, and hear the lamentations of the women when you request her to take care of children during a podcast.
Oh, well, that's not good. That's not good. That's not good at all, Nick. Well, fuck. Defenders. Defenders is a thing that exists at Marvel. You might know it from Netflix. Well, the original Defenders are being revived at Marvel in the form of a series of one-shots and a 5th team-up one-shot. And, of course, the original Defenders would be Hulk, Namor, Silver Surfer, and Doctor Strange. Now, this is kind of similar, as this article points out, to how Netflix introduced their Defenders with 4 solo series and then a 5th team-up. This will be collectively known as the Best Defense. So, Nick, your thoughts on the original Defenders?
Always been a little bit of a weird lineup, but I've never really read a ton of classic Defenders. So I don't know, how that's going to operate. But we'll see how it goes. I'm interested, at least somewhat interested anyway, to seeing how it turns out. Probably a Marvel Unlimited read for me at some point.
Yes, well, while that's coming back at Marvel, DC is bringing back a classic concept of its own in the pages of Scott Snyder's Justice League comic. And that concept is Starman, or if you prefer, Starman. And, of course, we've talked about Starman right here on the show, Nick, but the Starman that we've talked about is the Starman of the 90s. Of course, Jack Knight, who is the son of the original Starman from the Golden Age, Ted Knight. Well, the Starman that Scott Snyder is bringing back, and I very nearly said Scott Steiner, which was not intentional. And I would never want to offend Mr. Steiner by bringing him up on our show. I apologize.
No. We are big fans of ham cubes. We do not want to find ourselves in a Conrad Thompson-like situation.
No.
The hot bar at Shoney's is wonderful. It's one of the best values in the entire food industry. Absolutely. And ham cubes in particular are delicious, filling, and just all around good for you.
Absolutely. And we also support Mr. Steiner's ongoing quest to expose people that are fat.
Yes, even though we are ourselves fat.
Indeed.
So I know that's confusing for some people, but, you know.
Well, Scott Snyder is bringing back the 1980s Starman, a.k.a. Will Payton, or Will Starman. It's part of the ongoing Justice League story that Snyder has done, and it ties back into the Metal series, where Will Payton appeared briefly. Now, I don't know much of anything about the Will Payton Starman. I actually haven't gotten that far into my James Robinson Starman run, but I know he does appear in there at some point, I think. Mm-hmm. Not really sure what to make of this, Nick, but cool to see DC digging back into its reservoir of characters.
Yeah, it is. Again, I don't know anything about this this version of Starman, and I haven't read any of Scott Snyder's Justice League yet either. But hopefully, it's a little bit better than his work on Metal, which sucked. And I can check out this and learn a little bit about Starman at some point in the near future.
Very good. Well, as we are legally required to do, we have to report on any crossover between comics and wrestling that may happen. Well, in this case, we are reporting on the fact that Bruno Sammartino, the legendary professional wrestler who passed away recently, is getting his own autobiography in comic book form. Before he passed away, he approached Squared Circle Comics about preserving his legacy in the form of a comic book, and did interviews with the writer and wrestling historian John Crowther, who has written a Nikolai Volkov comic book that I own but haven't read. And that led to the script. And now Rich Parada, who has drawn Deadpool and The Ray, will be drawing it. And this series will be coming out. Actually, it's right now available on Kickstarter. And is the first of 5 issues in standard comic format. And if you're interested in that Kickstarter link, we can hook you up with that on the Place to Be Nation Comics Facebook page, or through our Twitters at gphillips8652 or at nickduke87,
or at JR's BBQ.
At JR's BBQ. He may not be able that account may not respond with the proper link, but we'll see. Pretty cool way to honor Bruno here, I think, Nick.
Yeah, it's interesting. This seems to be something of a growing trend in the. You know, it's weird to say, but the wrestling comics, the subgenre, seems to be a thing at this point. So, interesting that it continues to expand with stuff like Headlocked or stuff like these variety of autobiographical comics that have come out. Just an interesting development in seeing two of our shared interests intersect.
One day we're going to do a Longbook Hunters on Headlocked. One day. I don't know when that day will be. But
what was the other one that was not Headlocked?
Oh, gosh.
Remember there was another one that was... Headlocked is the one, then there was another one that Aubrey Sitterson was involved with somehow.
That's right, yeah.
I don't remember.
Put an H behind the S in Sitterson and you get... I don't know what the hell. Anyway, regardless of all
strong
that,
words from a strong man. Greg Phillips.
Insano. One of the other subgenres that has gotten really big...
the
daddy subgenre of comics.
Oh, yes.
Are you familiar with this one?
I am not. Tell me all about it.
Well, this is the subgenre.
I'm a daddy.
Features...
So is this aimed at me?
Well, I think it's a different kind of daddy.
I don't know what you mean.
You are a father.
Yes.
This is about daddies.
Okay.
Two different businesses.
Explain the difference between these two businesses to me.
Well, as I understand it, a daddy is one that an individual can look upon and wish for that person to control and dominate them in a sexual manner. I could be way off on that.
Oh my!
I could be way off on that, but that is my reading between the lines of this situation here.
Okay, and how does this tie into comic books, Greg?
Well, I'll tell you. I'm glad you asked.
Is this a Jim Steranko book? Is that where the tie-in comes?
Yeah, well, it should be.
It should. Oh my God, it should be.
It's probably an autobiographical Steranko book where the names have been changed to protect the innocent.
Like the actual Steranko autobiography? Steranko,
yes, what is it, Jim
Graphic
Steranko,
Prince of Darkness
or something?
Graphic Prince of Darkness by Jim Steranko.
a Jim Steranko production. In any event, Ani Press is putting out a comic book based on the acclaimed visual novel video game series Dream Daddy. Now, the press release says, will you go out with teacher dad, goth dad, bad dad? I mean, it could be anything. Dream Daddy, a dad dating simulator, invites the player to Maple Bay, where they play as a single dad, new to town and eager to romance other hot dads. The comic series tells 5 standalone stories, each focused on different Maple Bay dads. Now, this comic book, you know, this is certainly appealing to a new genre of comics, wouldn't you say?
It has to. I mean, it just what is? Can you go back to something? I think you covered. What is Dream Daddy exactly again? How was it described?
It is a dating simulator, a dad dating simulator.
Okay, but the dads are dating
other dads.
Okay, I see what you're saying.
Yes, and they're out to romance the other daddies.
Okay, this is a daddy on daddy dating situation.
That's correct. Yes.
Oh, so I would not be eligible because I would be a father in your estimation and not a daddy.
Well, I mean, it depends. It depends on, if you want to be considered a daddy, I'm sure you could be. I don't know who would consider you one, but maybe you have to have a certain aesthetic about you, I think, to fit into the role of daddy.
So a fat gut, is that good?
I don't think that's a disqualifying factor, but perhaps might be frowned upon.
What about a giant white ass?
I don't think I don't think anybody wants that.
What about baldness?
I think that there could be bald daddies, I should say.
Bald daddies.
Yeah. Randy Orton himself was bald for a time, and I've heard certain other podcasters refer to him as daddy before.
Yeah, I guess. I'm just trying. Perhaps we'll have to do a long book on this at some point to truly understand what makes a daddy. And if we do, of course, we'll have to have at least one, if not 2, very special guests along with us.
I like it. Who will be joining us for another very special project in the near future?
I forgot that was even happening.
Oh, you can't forget, because you're going to see that rap song.
I am so focused. You can tell that my memory is just firing on all cylinders today. So
synapses.
Oh God.
Anyway, that's the end of the Nick and I are both in a confused and muddled state of mind at the moment. So,
folks, alcohol is stupid, and you shouldn't drink it. That's what I'm saying.
We're going to move on to the next portion here, where it is our weekly segment where we look at what we've been reading and what we've been watching in the comic book world. Segment we like to call Reading and Watching.
Yep.
Reading and watching. What you been reading and watching? What you been reading and watching?
Nick, what you been reading and watching?
I haven't read anything. I watched one episode of season 2 of Luke Cage. It was pretty good.
I can't tell if that's a compliment or an insult.
It was pretty good. It was solid. I give it a B+. That's what it was. It was fine. I'll watch some more of it at some point.
Not bad.
Here's the problem. Here's the problem with it. As I told you on the phone. Listen,
where this is going.
Luke Cage, you can tell this really cool and grounded story that's got a lot of social relevance about it in 2018. You can get me to take it somewhat seriously, and I can be all in on the journey. But I'm telling you, man, every time you say the word Bushmaster out loud on my television, I'm going to laugh.
Well,
now,
I think...
is that fair to the Bushmaster himself, who's giving a pretty physically imposing performance? No, it's not fair to him. Good God.
Now, how does the Bushmaster...
It's not fair to him, but I'm going to do it anyway because inside I'm still like 12 years old.
So I have 2 questions about this.
Yes.
Number 1, how does the Bushmaster relate to the Taskmaster?
Not, from what I can tell.
No Zodiac, no...
What was your second question?
None of that. Well, my second question is, with all of the... what's the term that our good buddy Tim might use, with all of the trim that he's been pulling since season 1, would not Luke Cage himself be considered the Bushmaster?
No, you see, because he's still with Claire. So he is now the master of just one bush rather than the bush in general.
Rather than general. The overarching bushes of season 1.
Right, whereas the Bushmaster, I'm assuming, would be a master of all the bush, like in general.
Bush,
yes. And that could be man bush as well. I mean, my understanding is that if you're the Bushmaster, that means you've mastered the art of all bushes. Not,
yes.
You're not locking yourself into one particular subset of bush.
It could even be a giant-sized man bush.
It could be, it could be a bush of any size, shape, or variety. I would even assume that an actual, piece of shrubbery, like an actual tree or plant, would fall under his purview as well.
Now, I understand that he is going to bush up the world because he is none other than the Bushmaster.
I don't know. I can't confirm that because mainly the other problem is I can't understand a damn word he's saying thus far.
Yeah.
I just know that he's the Bushmaster, and it's funny.
In any event, I also have been watching a little bit of a comic book show. I've been watching more of Krypton. And I watched the penultimate, which means second to last, I believe, episode of the season. I know what that means. But I watched the penultimate episode of the season. I believe that it is the penultimate episode, if I'm not miscounting. And it was just excellent. It's such a great show. Can't wait for you to watch it. I've enjoyed it thoroughly. I think you'll like the tone. I think you'll like the characters, the way that it develops. And I will say this, after the most recent episode that I have watched, I have completely turned on Lyta Zod. I no longer like her. I want her to not as her character's good, but you know what I'm saying? Her actions on the show have turned me against her.
She is the Trish Walker of Krypton.
Yes. I would say that's fair. And without having seen the new season of Jessica Jones, I liked Trish in season 1. But
as did we all, Greg.
But, so I'm really looking forward to seeing how this wraps up. Such a great take on Brainiac, such a great take on really all of these characters. And one of the most brilliant things about it is I can't tell who's being honest and who's playing who. And that's a good compliment to the makers of this show. Other than that, I haven't been watching anything comic book related, I don't think. And I have not read any comics this past week. So that's it. That's all we got. My God, it's all over.
Mm-hmm.
Well, with all that being said, what do we have coming the folks' way in the next few weeks?
I don't know.
I don't either. We'll just leave it as a surprise. How about that? And here's the thing: after you're done listening to this piece of garbage that we've just recorded, no offense to Todd, obviously, he was wonderful as always, but our back half of the show was garbage. Let's face it.
Mm-hmm.
But as you're done listening to this, please go and listen to the 2018 Place to Be Nation biennial.
You mean
Peter
the
David
third
Memorial
biennial Place to Be Nation Peter David Memorial Fantasy Comics Draft presented by a hypothetical, non-rotational DC Comics online, unlimited subscription service.
That's exactly right. I couldn't have said it better myself, and indeed wouldn't have. So go and listen to that. We're actually already getting a lot of great. It's only been out for a few days now, as the time of this recording. We're already getting really great feedback on it. A lot of discussion, more discussion than we get typically on most of our shows. So join in, listen to it, join in the fun. And I got to say, Nick, with all of this positive reaction to it, we might have to revisit the biennial part of this draft concept.
Oh God, I don't know about that. We'll see.
We'll see where it all goes. But nonetheless, we're thankful for all of you joining us. We're going to forego the Wrestling Minute this week. Not a whole lot going on, really, outside of a bunch of things. But
there was some little show called All In that I didn't watch, and yet I know everything about. So there you go.
Yes. I think the best thing to do with regards to All In is to tell everyone exactly what happened from the beginning of the show to the end, even when they tell you beforehand that they're going to watch it later that night. Or, an even better idea, Nick, is to tell people that it's going to be available on your service hours after the show ends, and then 24 hours later, it's still not available on your service.
Oh, is it not on there?
No, I checked earlier. Now, it's possible it's up right now.
That's weird.
But who knows? But nonetheless, looking forward to watching that. So, Till next time, we are the Hard-Traveling Fanboys. What is the meaning of life? No one knows, really, ultimately. But we like to think that we get a little bit closer to that answer each and every week, right here on our show.
Well, Klondike Bill told me that if he ever came across a woman who was extremely clean and well-kept, he would tell her to put on a pair of sweatpants and a sweatshirt, go take a 2-mile jog, and then come back and see him when she was done.
I believe it was quite sudden and painful.
Hard-Traveling Fanboys, 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 Hard-Traveling Fanboys.